Yo, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for everyone kind of joining us today. We are live here, our first ever live episode here on Draft Night. Thank you all guys for being here. Everyone who's came and supported over the last week and said their well wishes. Really excited to get this thing going. This week we have an extra special one with you guys here this week. We have an extra draft special. Just coming hanging out and enjoying, kind of just hanging out and watching the draft along with us. We're going to have some awesome guests with us here this week for today. We got Terry Roberts, Iowa football player, here with us tonight. Juice Drugs, Penn State offensive lineman, will be here joining with us. Here shortly as well, we'll have Nick Burns. He has his the Nick and Griff show podcast with Nick and Griff. Griff will also be on as well. He'll be later on in the stream, which will be really cool and awesome stuff. But just those are kind of the guests that we're kind of rolling with tonight, and kind of just watching the draft along with you guys. Kind of throw in the chat what you guys think the next picks are going to be, or some comments or some questions that you guys might have for our upcoming guests coming on. It's going to be really cool stuff. I'm really excited to see, who's going to be picked number one this year. This year, I usually do like a lot of like mock drafts, or kind of see, what's going on or who's going to be picked. This year, unfortunately, I didn't really get time and time around to be able to do that. So I'm really intrigued. I do not know much about these players, which is it's all going to be a surprise. I think the last year's draft hype was up there. This year's is going to be definitely a lot different. And I think that there won't be as many good players, but I think the skill positions are going to do really well. It won't be like a big quarterback heavy draft, I don't think, like last year's. But I'm excited with us. I want to give a couple quick shout outs real quick as we start things off here. First, give a shout out to Blake, our marketing intern, who's here with us today, is kind of helping me around with the live stream today. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Blake. Thanks, Blake, for coming on with us here today. He's doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Next quick shout out. Want to give a shout out to the video editing team that continues to help me and help me through this live stream. They gave me some cool animations, the cool overlay that you guys see on the screen right now. They put that all together and just continue to help me out. All the new videos that have came out, they've been doing a great job editing those videos. So I want to give a shout out to Dominic, Charles, and Beth. All you guys are awesome. Keep up the good work. And, as you've seen, and you've seen it as an improvement from, from when I was editing videos compared to, them. So just a quick shout out to them. I'm really excited to kind of put on a show for you guys and kind of bring you guys some new guests this week. Hope you guys saw our little spiel on social media before we got on here, of kind of going through what's going on and who's our guest. But let's kind of dive into the draft on kind of before our first guest comes on here. Throw in the comments who you guys think is going to be first overall pick. It's really going to be interesting to see, who's going to be number one. There's been like a big hype. Aiden Hutchinson has been like the number one pick, ever since the year ended out of Michigan. Was a Heisman candidate, Heisman finalist, which was impressive as a defensive end. But we've heard a lot of this buzz around Travon Walker as the number one overall pick, especially with the draft or the GM of the Jaguars, who likes to take not necessarily diamonds in the rough, but people with better physical attributes. Like they were using examples like Aldon Smith wasn't like a polished end or pass rusher coming out, but he has all the physical tools, and he's just a freak of an athlete. Aiden Hutchinson, is not saying he's not a freak, because he is a freak. at what he's able to do. But Trayvon Walker is just puts the numbers up. And it's just physically gifted, unlike any other player in the draft. And I think from there, it's going to be interesting to kind of see kind of a snowball effect of who's going to get picked over, who's going to get picked next. Does somebody come up and take a quarterback? Even though I mean, based on the research and stuff that I've done, I don't think that there's like a quarterback in the top 10 worth taking unless, I think it's like Malik Willis would probably be the only one worth taking in the top 10 with even remote talent. But I'm curious to see, there's been some big buzz around Derek Stingley going in like the top 10 over Sauce Gardner. Both dudes with like a lot of swag, both guys who can play at a very high level. As you see now that there's a lot of need for corners in the NFL as the receivers and offense continues to get better. And there's just so many good receivers now in the NFL. It's really interesting to see, how these players are continuing to evolve from college to the NFL. I think it's the best of the best it's ever been. I think that's going to be a really cool driving point within the top 10 pick. But, I think there's also going to be a lot of like in the trenches kind of players, whether it's, defensive linemen or offensive linemen. I think those are going to be the safe picks in this draft. And possibly some receivers. I wouldn't necessarily call them safe, as safe as probably the offensive lineman or the defensive lineman in the draft. But we'll kind of see how things shape out over time and continue to see how these how things are coming along these lines. I'm really excited here. I think Roger Goodell is getting close here to kicking the draft off and putting the Jaguars on the clock. I'm curious to see, if they'll take their time or will they just, know who they're taking right away. I'm curious to see about that. But what is really cool about the draft nowadays is that with their changing locations, where they used to have it in Radio City and in New York, but now that they have traveling place to place and picking these places, I think Vegas is a really cool place. I bet they'll come back to there. I think it'll be it's a really cool atmosphere, especially with all the travel, casinos, hotels, and all that stuff. It's a destination. Definitely going to be coming back. They'll probably go back to they'll probably go to LA, Florida, kind of like make a spring trip on it. But man, I'm pumped for the draft this year. I always feel like we're always waiting for what's next for when it comes to football and stuff like that. And it's before you know it, it'll be right around the corner, but we're kind of starting after the draft. We'll start to kind of get in the dog days of where you're just itching to watch some more football and you'll want to watch college football and, the NFL. Always love the NFL, but being a college athlete, it is really cool to see all the cool atmospheres in college football as things continue to evolve. And what is really cool, I think, about like the college game as how it's continued to evolve over time, where the players continue to get better. But also what's crazy about where we talk about like all these NIL deals and all these other things that continue to get players to come to the draft, to their college and to them, which is I think it's going to be really cool to see, see this and kind of get into like what's kind of get into like, is there, how much money are these kids making, which is, it's kind of crazy at the SE's FBS levels and stuff like that. But furthermore, we kind of have our first kind of guest here tonight with us. He's kind of he's kind of just going to be hanging out with us and kind of living the dream here tonight and just be kind of BSing as the things go through. He is one of my good friends, good buddies, one of the smartest guys I've ever met, host of the Nick and Griff Show. We have Nick Burns here with us today. Nick, welcome to the live stream, man. This is super exciting to kind of have you on today. What's going on, Nick?
Man, I'm so excited to be on the TO show again. I love what you're doing with the podcast, dude. Look at StreamYard. This looks great, man. I'm juiced to be here, Odie. Thank you for having me on. It looks like you've got Blake on here. Is this one of your guys that's working for you that's helping you?
Yeah, I gave him a quick shout out. Blake is awesome. Blake is amazing. He's one of our marketing interns here with us. And he's going to be here this summer too. But Blake's an awesome guy. Blake's helping us a lot to help us grow our social media pages and stuff like that. So a lot of the posts, he's actually in charge of, our wellness weeks, our wellness tips for the week. If you've seen those, he's in charge of those. He does a fantastic job with those. So Blake is awesome.
Was he who was helping you write the deal that you posted the other day about sleep?
Yep.
Okay.
He's in charge of those. Yeah. He that's his gig. I kind of like to let my interns continue to make it theirs. We kind of like look and see how things are going, but I want them to make posts that they're passionate about. And Blake loves to lift, and he's big into nutrition and stuff like that. And so having a kind of like a tip for all you athletes, all you student athletes out there is, very, very important, especially, like I said, you were talking about, hey, do I go out and have a social life? Do I focus on school, or do I just say I'm going to focus on sports, or do I say, hey, I'm going to take a little bit of athletics and take a little bit of academics and say goodbye to my social life?
Dude, that's something that I loved thinking about and talking about whenever I was, even more so now, I guess, being out of college and out of college sports. I know for sure whenever I was in that, you're exactly right? It's those three things as a college athlete. You've got to focus on two of the three options, and you named them perfect. It's you're a student, an athlete, but you've also got this social life piece in there, right? And so you're going to have all three of them kind of intertwined in there, right? But I think a lot of people will pick being an athlete and having a social life, and then the school falls off, right? But then, I know for myself, I picked school and being an athlete. Therefore, I didn't make a whole ton of friends and memories whenever I was in college because I didn't have quite the social life. But you're exactly right, man. That's the exact truth.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on kind of like the school that you're going to as well. Like, I think like some schools you're able to like, slack off your academics a little bit and still kind of get away, like with still getting good grades and stuff like that. But I think it's interesting to kind of see how people like throughout the years, like you're a freshman and you kind of prioritize like social life, you know what I mean? And then you like slowly kind of get older and you're like, man, like I really like this, like the football stuff and, this academic stuff. I really need to focus in and hone in, especially as your classes continue to like get harder. I just finished a freaking 120-page paper today. Nick had to do that sucker. So I had to finish like having that. So just focusing on that. I think it's interesting as you kind of mature and you get older and you kind of see, what are the successful athletes doing? I think, for example, for me, it was like JR. What is JR? Was JR, person who goes out and had a big social life? No, the dude was like ingrained into like, football and also his academics, more focused on that. And then whatever happened after that, if you had time to have a social life, that was awesome too.
It's funny that paper you're talking about. I for sure remember doing that, and I think we had different professors. I think we had talked about this before. We definitely had different professors, and I know whenever I did mine, of course, that was right in the middle of when COVID started, and we had got kicked off campus for the rest of the semester and ended up being, I guess, like a year after. I don't even remember after I graduated. I don't even really remember what happened after that. But I remember writing that paper, dude. I got to like 52 pages, and I was like, I don't know what the hell else I'm gonna write. Like I don't know what else y'all want from me. And I remember calling, and I was that last semester, I got pretty close with my professors. I'd call them on the phone. I'm like, hey man, so like I'm trying to write this deal. I'm trying to do this. I called Van Ness, and I was like, man, I'm trying to write this deal. Like I could put some more stuff in here, but it's just going to be fluff on top. Like it's not really going to add any more substance. So can I just turn this paper in at like 50 pages? And he was like, no, it's got to be this about. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to turn it in with 52 pages. And I turned it in. I can't remember what I got. It doesn't even matter, right? Like I passed a class, and it's like I got my degree. It didn't even matter. But I was like, what are we doing? And now it's funny. Being in commercial construction at this point, I'm the guy that writes our proposals and presents them to our clients. Dude, I mean, we're presenting proposals for like, millions of dollars, and they're like 3 pages long. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So we're going to segue into our first guest tonight. Awesome here with us here tonight. A stud on and off the football field. Is it just a physical specimen? It wouldn't surprise me if we see this guy, sometime in the near future, on a night like tonight or tomorrow. We have Penn State offensive lineman Juice Scruggs here with us tonight. Juice, what's going on, man?
Yo, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, man. What's going on, Juice?
What's going on, man? What's good?
Not much, man. What you up to lately?
Nothing, man. Just grinding. That's about it.
Just grinding? Yeah. Awesome stuff. Are you guys kind of like in your mix of spring ball right now?
We actually just finished spring ball, and so we just like finishing off this week with like just some testing, like 40s and bench and squat and all that, and then we're segueing into summer, like summer 1 and stuff.
Yeah, is there something in the water at Penn State? You guys, like, I feel like you guys always put out like crazy specimen of dudes. Like, you guys are always running like 4.4s and like throwing up weight like there's nobody's business. Is there some you guys put some in the water there at Penn State?
I don't know. Yeah, we definitely have we had some freak athletes come through. And it's just for real. It's just freak athletes mixed with like the great coaching staff that we have. So it's cool to see for real.
Yeah, so
I believe the common term for that is gear, right? Are they on the gear?
For sure.
Juice, it's great to meet you, brother. We have not met yet. Odie and I were teammates at the University of Albany. Glad to meet you, brother.
Word, nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, Juice. So, Juice, kind of go through and tell like a little bit about the viewers of kind of like kind of your path to, I know it was kind of a crazy one, but your kind of path to Penn State and just talk a little bit about that.
Well, me and T.O., we go way back, man. We was teammates at high school, and we won some state chips there, and I picked Penn State like right before my senior year because I didn't want all the distractions and all that. So just going into Penn State like my freshman year, I already knew what it was. Like I was going in undersized. It's gonna be a redshirt year. I'm gonna have to get bigger. So I did that. Witnessed Trace McSorley, Miles Sanders, Ryan Bates, all those guys, just watch them do their thing on the field. And I was like in awe, but pretty much just, motivated too. And pretty much just grinded, got my weight up. But then going into my redshirt sophomore year, I got in an accident, broke my back, and I had to sit out that whole like a year and a half. And for real, I just knew I was going to get back on the field, and I just knew it was going to take a lot of hard work. And I just put my mind to it for real and got back on the field and started playing, and here I am.
Yeah, Juice, what was kind of like the process of like you were a 4-star coming out of, high school. You could have probably gone to just about anywhere you wanted. I know it was between Ohio State and Penn State. But, talk a little bit about like that recovery, or how mentally strong you had to be. You got in that, that bad wreck and you broke your back and all that stuff. Just talk a little bit about, mentally, how tough was it to come back, from that?
Yeah, it's like, it's just like with any other injury for real. Like, you gonna have them days where it's hard. You just like, dang, man, I'm never gonna be back on the field. Just watch, because you watch your teammates.
Yeah.
And you get jealous. You for real get jealous. Like, you like, dang. But you just gotta do your best to stay positive and just think about the future and just think, like, take baby steps. It's not always gonna go. It's gonna come overnight. You just gotta take baby steps, take it day by day, and that's for all I can say, because it was definitely hard, but you just gotta fight through it.
Go ahead, Nick.
What's that?
Oh, so Juice, so why'd you end up picking Penn State over Ohio State? What was kind of like the decision factor that kind of made you want to like decide to do that over Ohio State when you committed?
Yeah, it was definitely a hard decision. Definitely, because I was torn between the two. Because I grew up a Buckeye fan, but Penn State, I fell in love with Penn State during the recruiting process. Not really, like, as a kid, not really knowing much like about Penn State. I just was a big Buckeye fan. And I ain't like Michigan. That's about it. But I got respect for every team in the Big Ten. But for sure, it was just definitely it was just the family atmosphere at Penn State. Like, every time I visit, like, it was the same thing. It was like they remember me, they remember my family, like they knew exactly like what it was, and they just like they did a great job of just showing love and just genuine love, and it's something you don't get a lot during the recruiting process, but they showed it to me, and we was locked in.
Hey, Juice, what year are you right now with Penn State?
I'm about to be a redshirt senior, so I'm going in my 5th year.
Old head, this guy.
Old head, man. Time flies.
The two L heads on the room on the call right now.
What? So I got to ask. I know I have my own opinion. What has changed in your mindset from stepping on campus? Did you graduate high school in like May and show up in summer for your start, or did you early graduate? Did you do it?
Nah, yeah. I graduated in May and then went in the summer.
So what has been your mindset change as a college athlete from that first day that you step on campus, the first workouts? I'm sure you threw up a couple of times. I'm sure you felt like absolute, what, and we're not happy about it. You probably got dog cussed a couple of times by some coaches. You probably had some older guys like you are probably now hounding on some younger guys. What has been your I guess transition from that first day you stepped on campus to now you're an old guy on campus and you're kind of setting the tone? What has that been like for you?
Like the transition for real from high school to college, like with the workouts and stuff, it really wasn't that big of a leap for me because T.O. know, like, the trainer in Erie, like Steve Spearman, we would go to him all the time, and he would have some crazy hard workouts. And like that for real got me prepared because I was like doing that, like, like your senior year of high school, you just gotta show up for school sometimes, and you can just do whatever. But I was mainly just working out, just getting ready because I already knew what time it was when I got to school. They was gonna be on it. So pretty much just that just prepared me. And when I got there, man, time flies, man. It definitely does. Cause I remember like yesterday when I first got here, like pretty much everybody I came in with, like in my class, it's only like 4 of us left.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy to see everybody gone. Just guys going to the league. It's a blessing for sure.
It seems like with the transfer portal really kind of coming into, what has it been, the last couple of years, I guess, that the transfer portal has really started to be used. It seems like it's more and more rare to find guys that have been at a school for 4 or 5 years. I mean, are you seeing that? I mean, that's kind of what I've seen over the past, over my career, I guess. because the first probably 2 or 3 years whenever I was in college, the transfer portal was not around, but it seems like looking from the outside in that a lot of guys there's a lot more movement around throughout the leagues, throughout different divisions. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot. I can't really say anything bad about the portal for real because like we had a lot of benefits. Like Penn State, we had a lot of benefits from the portal, so I
Yeah.
can't really say anything bad about it. But I feel like it's good and bad. But like everybody has their own preference. But I feel like definitely for us though, it's been very helpful because like we had like some last year we had some key guys that made huge plays for us that came from the transfer portal. So it could definitely benefit a program, but it could also like, what I'm saying, tear a program down.
Yo, Juice. So you guys had some freaking dogs come through, like Penn State, like and in the league too as well, like some dogs. Like, what have you kind of like learned from them? Like, you kind of like came in and you saw, kind of like what Penn State football is about, and you guys kind of continue to like expand upon that and kind of continue the tradition. What have you kind of learned from those guys as you came in? Like you talked about, like with Trace and those guys.
Yeah, most definitely. Definitely like just off the rip, it's just like the competitive nature. Like, high school, like not everybody's like on the same mindset. Like, everybody like our high school team had a lot of dudes that, was going to the next level. So like a lot of us did have the same mindset, but not every high school is like that. So when you get here, it's just like, dang, like everybody chasing the same dream, like trying to make it to the next level. And when I got here from day one, it was just like Trace was a great example because he was a great leader and he just off the rip, just like I'm just like, dang, this how college is, like just like his own like player led workouts and stuff. I'm just like, dang, and yeah, just like taking it from them guys, just learning, and yeah, it's been great. Like every day in practice, going against guys like Jason Oweh for the Ravens, Micah, rookie of the
Yeah.
year. Like it just got me better, and I'm thankful I chose Penn State.
Yeah, cool stuff, Juice. Yeah. So you kind of like, this year, a little bit last year, but mostly this year, you kind of like came in and started just about, played every freaking down, played every snap. What was it like going against, some of the top Big Ten, interior guys? You're playing right guard. Are you going to be playing center next year? Or are you still sticking to the right guard?
Nah, yeah, I'm playing center this year.
Okay, sweet. So what kind of responsibility you said talked a little bit at the end of spring ball. What kind of more responsibilities are you going to have? You're a fifth-year guy, kind of a leader and staple of the team now. What are some responsibilities and some kind of leadership stuff, especially now being the center, leader of that offensive line, that you've kind of taken upon over, the last couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. For me personally, I just gotta take the next step in the leadership role, and just T.O. know me. I'm not very, I don't talk a lot, but I just gotta, get uncomfortable, get out that comfort zone, and just, step up as a vocal leader, and just, lead our team. Because center, I'm like the quarterback of the O line pretty much, but I just gotta lead my guys and do a better job this year.
Hey, Juice, will you talk to a second here? Because I know you mentioned something that's very important. The idea that the center, and I guess it's a little different depending on what kind of offensive scheme you're running. But as a center on the offensive line, you're running that whole offensive line. Talk a little bit to some of the things that you're looking at. You go down and you're looking to linebackers, you're looking at where your D line's at. What are some of those things that you look at typically? Obviously, it changes depending on the plays you're running, all that kind of stuff, whether it's run, whether it's a pass. What are some of those things you're looking at typically?
For first thing, I'm checking to see what the defense is, what the front is. I'm checking to see they in 4 down, 3 down, odd, okie, like what it is, bear, whatever. but that's the first thing I do. I let everybody know. I yell it like 3 down, 4 down, bear, whatever. That's the first thing I do. Next thing I'm doing, I'm IDing the backer. So whatever play it is, I'm not gonna give away our plays, but whatever play it is, I'm IDing the backer, and pretty much that's for real it. Like, and then I'm, you know what I'm saying, communicating the double teams, and that's pretty much it, man. I get all my guys on the same page, and then I get ready to hike the ball.
I mean, it might be a little self-explanatory for a few of them, but you talk about 3 down, 4 down, Okie.
Yeah.
What are bear fronts? You know, what are those for somebody that may not know what those are?
Yeah, so I is just 3 down, and then Okie is 3 down, but you got 2 4 eyes, and then bear is just 5 down. You got 5 D linemen, and then 4 down is just, you know, under, over.
I guess it's pretty tough to get into this stuff without having a whiteboard, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's tough to really explain, like, and go in the nitty gritty of this. Of that.
It's tough to explain what a shade or an eye, or it's tough to explain those things, right?
It sounds complicated, but like if you show like the normal person just the pictures and stuff, like just draw it out, it's so simple. So.
Yeah, Juice, you've kind of had like a bunch of different like offensive coordinators. Your time here, what has kind of been like, your mindset, or what have you kind of seen like over time? You had Moorhead at the start, and then Ricky Ray, who's now off at Old Dominion. What have kind of like you've seen like the different kind of offensive styles and other things like that you've kind of like picked on through all those different offensive coordinators? You've been around like some awesome offensive college football minded coaches.
Definitely. Well, I didn't get Moorhead. I committed to Moorhead, but he left right before I got
here. He left. Oh, all right.
Yeah. So I had Ricky Ronnie, Coach Ronnie. I had him 2 years, I believe. I had him 2 years. And yeah, he was basically like the same type of style as Coach Moorhead was, but he was just aggressive. He liked to call his bread and butter plays. And then I had Coach Sriracha, and he came from Minnesota for a year, and he was a more like just run the ball type style. Mm-hmm. And then now recently I got Coach Yursich. And I just love our offense right now, and it's up tempo, and defense has got to be ready for it. I like tempo.
That's funny. I Coach Yursich was my offensive coordinator when I was a walk-on freshman at redshirt freshman at Oklahoma State.
Hey, small world, man.
It is. When you get in this football world, it's crazy how, like, you talk to like different people, or even like you talk to like other transfers. You're like, oh yeah, I know who that is, or like, oh man, that's my boy, or hey, I remember that coach, and just like stuff like that. It's crazy how it's like, especially with this transfer portal stuff. It's like I feel like it makes it even the like college football world even smaller.
Yeah, most definitely.
Juice, what I was big whenever I think I got later on in my college football career. I started being a little bit more conscious about what time I was going to sleep, what time I was waking up, the kinds of food that I was eating, what my routines were, when I did my homework, how I operated when I was at classes. What are some of those things, if you're thinking about them, what are some of those things for you?
Oh, no, it definitely changed. Like coming in as a freshman, you gotta adjust really fast. And I ain't do like, none of the things that I'm doing now. Like just for instance, for example, like if we have a workout or whatever, I gotta show up at least an hour early and get warmed up, get ready. And like freshman year, all I had to do was just show up 10 minutes to get dressed, get ready to go. And it definitely shows you how much you grow from where you were and just getting older, I guess. I don't know. Yeah,
Juice, talk a little bit about like some of this NIL stuff. like I feel like you guys at the FBS level, at the FCS level, even for us, there's not like that much of an opportunity just because we don't have like the same fan base that you guys have at like Penn State or one of those FBS schools. Talk a little bit about like what it's like, especially being at the FBS level, being able to kind of like take advantage of some of these NIL deals.
Oh no, it's definitely beneficial for sure. Just I think for like all around, just all student athletes, not just football, just all student athletes being able to take advantage of their name, image, and likeness. And it's just definitely something that's you just got to be smart about it too, though. Like you just can't go out there accepting everything that's coming your way, and like just be smart and just think about like if it's a good thing for you, because that's really all it is. It's about you and your brand. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's giving student athletes a chance to get into the business world early.
Yeah, Juice, before we let you go, where do you think your boy Jesse Luketa is going to go? Is he going to where do we think he's going? You got a prediction on where you think he's going?
You mean team wise or like round wise?
Round wise, any team round, any of that stuff, man. Where do you think
I'm definitely saying he's going either second to third round.
Yeah, I'm hoping that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm saying that just off of like what he showed this year, how versatile he is playing linebacker and then putting his hand in the dirt and playing DN. And, he definitely showed he can be versatile, do whatever the team needs. So I definitely think he should go second or third round for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy that he was like a freshman year a linebacker, and then senior year he's freaking rushing the passer and playing coverage. Man, dude's a freaking stud. That's awesome. Awesome
Crazy
stuff with Jesse about that stuff. Well, Juice, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate. Enjoy your rest of the night, and good luck with workouts, early morning workouts tomorrow, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate
Great
you.
to meet you, Juice.
All right. Good talking,
Yes,
Juice. We'll see you.
All
right, guys. That was Juice Scruggs with us. Awesome to have Juice on with us. Haven't talked to him in a while. Personally, graduated high school with Juice. Let me tell you a funny story about Juice. So, Juice, we used to run like a tunnel screen. And so when we were running to Juice's side, he played left tackle for us. He would pick up the end, just pancake him, and then I would catch the ball, and he'd be like a couple yards behind me. I'd be running down, and then before you know it, you'd look behind you, and Juice is like kind of like bringing up the rear and just running with you. Dude is a freaking nature. If you guys ever want like an awesome freaking high school tape, watch Juice's tape. He is just a specimen and just a physical dude. You can see it now in freaking and you can see it in college too. It's pretty interesting. So awesome stuff here. Nick, did you get a chance to see kind of like who was be able to picked in the draft here?
Yeah, I was kind of keeping track of this here. So it looks like number one, it's kind of interesting. It seems like for the last several years, it's always been quarterbacks. Looks like number one, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trayvon Walker, defensive end from Georgia. So that's your number one pick overall. Number two, we've got so far the Detroit Lions select Adrian Hutchinson, another D end from Michigan. Number three, we've got the Houston Texans selecting Derek Stingley Jr.
Yep.
Stingley Jr.,
Yep,
cornerback from LSU. Number four, the New York Jets select Sauce Gardner. How about that? Sauce Gardner.
How cool a name is that?
Another cornerback from Cincinnati, and the number 5 pick from the New York Giants says the pick is in here, and the Carolina Panthers are on the clock. So
yeah, Nick, before you got on here, I was talking about how Stingley's like stock rise just right like last week, and I was just reading about it. His draft stock has went straight up, just straight. He was rising, and I know some people had him high just because of the the season that he had in 2019, and he was able to go like shut down. I heard stories of him shutting down Jamar Chase in college. So it'll be interesting. I guess it was coming out that he had some injuries and stuff like that, but nothing surprising outside of, probably Stingley. I didn't think he would go 3. I thought he'd drop down to like maybe where the Giants would take him because they lost Bradbury. But we'll see. We'll see who the Giants pick here. It'll be interesting to see that.
Sure. I think I'm gonna have to go get my Patriots hat, man. I've been a Red Sox, Patriots, Celtics, Bruins. Like I'm a Boston guy, and it's been interesting here to see kind of the transition away from Tom Brady the past couple of years. You know, we got Cam Newton comes in, we've got Mac Jones that comes in and takes over for the Patriots. I think the future's bright for those guys. What are you thinking about some of the major changes around the NFL over the last several years?
Yeah, I think. I think the future is very bright. I'm a Broncos fan. The reason why I'm not wearing a Broncos hat is because they don't have a pick tonight. They traded it away, but Thibodeau just went to the Giants. All right, so that was interesting. That's who that I had picked to go to them. But I think the future of the NFL is really bright, especially in the AFC. Having Mahomes, Herbert, you know, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mac Jones. I mean, then you can go down the name of the list of the AFC quarterbacks. Just about all, either you got a quarterback or you don't in the AFC, and the Patriots also look bright. The only thing is looking out for that Josh Allen in Buffalo is going to be interesting playing in that division. And now with the Dolphins, I think that they're going to be competitive too. Now they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle was almost 1,000-yard receiver and played probably I think he only played 12 games. Something like that. So the AFC, man, look out for the AFC. I'm a Broncos fan. I have my hopes high, but that AFC West is crazy.
It's been, I'm not. It's kind of funny. I played 4 years of college football, and I'm not a football guy. I don't. I'm as far as like a religious watcher of football per se. But that being said. I spent my time in the trenches. I spent my time watching film. I've studied schematics, right? I've watched a lot of football. I've seen a lot of film. I've seen a lot of that stuff, and it's interesting to see. If you ever go on YouTube and you watch, I forget what it's called. It's basically like the stories of these famous athletes, right? They've got it for different sports and stuff, but there's a lot of great football stars,
stuff like that.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, right? You go back and you watch, some of those videos and see how football has changed over the decades. Man, it feels so apparent to see that as we've got like this new type of football player being formed in college football, what felt like it started in college football with like the spread offense, right? The spread offense, quick tempos, throwing the ball a lot. I mean, that's like really changed how football is played. And that started in college. And then high school coaches got on and they started training their guys the same way as if they were in a college type of system. And now all of those guys that have trained in, you look at like the Elite 11 type stuff that the quarterbacks, the receivers, and the DBs do at that high level. Those guys train like that in high school, and then they go to wherever they end up going to college, and they get ingrained in not only those types of systems as far as football, the actual game of football, but also their training levels boost way through the roof, right? And now in the NFL, we're starting to see all these guys that are these young guys that are coming in, and now the NFL is being played more and more on that spread offense, throwing the ball a ton more, and that's kind of interesting to see the transition from one style of football to another over time,
Yeah, I think it's interesting, especially I would say how the NFL has adapted more to college rather than college adapt to the NFL.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. People talk about he needs to adapt to the play style of the NFL or these other things. But I feel like more and more the NFL continues to steal from college rather than college stealing from the NFL. It's really curious to see all the different kind of like play styles, coaching, like all these different schematical things. But like the funny thing is, like, you know, you can be all schematical, but like even in the NFL, like I feel like it's just like based on who you have on your team. Like, do you have a playmaker? Like we saw us like in 2019, like we had Jawan Green and Carl Mofor, like, you know, on our team, and we had and Eli Menser, um, and Jaron Williams on our team. So it's like having those guys on your team just make like so much more of a difference. You know what I mean? Like rather than like being schematical. Oh, we're gonna out schematic. I feel like the only way you can win is like out schematic if your team is not as good as the other team. And sometimes it works, but most of the time it catches up with you at some point.
It seems like, you know, the best coaches are not they're not coaching a specific style per se or scheme or, you know, offensive or defensive mindset, but coaching the best scheme and mindset for the players that they've got, right? You're only as good as the tools that you've got in your tool belt.
Correct.
And if you've got a strategy to build a house out of hammer and nails, but you've got screws and a screwdriver, well, you're gonna have some issues, right? You're probably I mean, it's gonna be difficult to put a house together with a screwdriver and screws hammering those suckers in. I mean, it's just not going to work, right? Like you can try all you want, but it's just not going to work. And it seems like that's probably, I mean, I don't know. I'm just speculating, right? But that might be, in a way, what's happening in the NFL, right? I mean, you got all these guys that have played the spread offense. Why would we try to push these guys into a position where they're not comfortable, you know, and
Yeah.
try to push them into a new schematic?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think you've seen it like, but I think there's an extent to it. But at the end of the day, I think it's just like you're right. I think all the good coaches, not necessarily like the greatest schematicers, but not even necessarily the great recruiters in the NFL, but like they give their players the tools. You talked about the tool belt and stuff like that, but I feel like they give the best coaches give like their players like confidence in that they can play like to the best of their ability and stuff like that, which I think as a coach, it's not necessarily, hey, let's make sure that we're in the right play, but I think it's like the relationships that you can continue to create with them. And I think that's something sometimes coaches get like too far away, especially when we get ultra competitive, like, oh, we just want to win. But at the end of the day, we all started like playing football to like have fun and create relationships here or there. So I just think it's interesting. I think like, you know, I'm not trying to take away from like other coaches, but like, for example, like Mike Tomlin's not like the greatest schematic like person in the NFL, you know, but like I feel he's like one of the best like motivator or putting his players in the best situation. That's why he's never had a losing season ever. He gives his players the opportunity to be themselves, but also give them the opportunity to be like, hey, we're going to put you in a position to win and be your best. And I think people appreciate that more than I think like, oh, we're going to make sure that we run, you know, this play during this scenario at this time. Like that's great to have sometimes, but you know, I think more or less than not, you know, having those relationships can help your players continue to want to play harder and want to play for you.
You know, Odie, it would be so cool. You know, we're sitting here online together, hanging out, talking about football, draft day. A lot of guys' lives are I guess you could say changing, starting to change. They're finding themselves at the starting line today. Wouldn't it be so cool if we could hang out here and we could share the same plate of nachos?
Wouldn't that be cool?
I mean, like I mean, I'm sitting here hanging out, drinking a little beer here. I wish I had a plate of nachos, but we could like sit here and hang out and eat some nachos together. Maybe eat some wings. You know, it seems like wings and nachos are like the fitting like appetizer for this type of deal.
Yeah, you know, Nick, I think we're gonna have to work something out at some point. Maybe we'll have to get you to Virginia at some point.
Oh man,
this year or something. Fly out to
absolutely.
Virginia, have a weekend or something down here in the warm Virginia weather when I head down there. But Nick, why don't you talk a little bit about you know, don't not get in the nitty gritty of it, but your little awesome background you got going with the Nick and Griff show. We're gonna have Griff on later, late night. I don't know how many of you guys are gonna be able to stay up for that. He's on the West Coast time, so we're staying up for Griff later. But just talk a little bit about kind of like your show and what you guys talk about. Man, you guys are like, you guys are relatively new, but you guys are, got some awesome traction. You guys got awesome social media accounts, awesome podcasts. I love listening to you guys.
Well, thank you for the good words. So Griff and Tyler and I, we were all teammates at the University of Albany. That's where I initially met both of you guys.
Yeah.
Griff is, and I guess was at this point, we all were UAlbany teammates. We were both quarterbacks and happened to be roommates, spent a lot of time together. While we were in college, Griff ended up getting a finance degree. I got a marketing degree, but he and I took several, finance and economic classes together. So we kind of had some fun learning about those things together. And then I ended up going on and spent 16 months in the traditional financial world. And Griff went on and did his deal in the medical sales world. And during that whole time that I was there in the traditional financial world, Griff's in my ear talking about Bitcoin. You got to look into this. You got to read that. You got to look at this. And man, at the time, it just did not make sense for what I thought was true in the world, right? So I kind of discounted it. I didn't really listen to it a whole lot. Well, then I ended up toward the end of my time at Inspire. Inspire Financial Group was a company I was with. I started looking into it. I started reading a little bit about Bitcoin. And as I was doing that, I was calling Griff. I'm calling Griff. Man, I can't believe this. I learned this. I learned that. What do you think about this? We're basically just talking to each other about what it is that I was learning. And then as I kind of got up to speed, then we kind of started sharing ideas together and learning things together. And we were talking on the phone for like an hour and a half, like 3 or 4 times a week,
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I was like, dude, it feels like we're learning a ton of stuff. We got to share this with the world. And so we started what is the Nick and Griff show, as you can see up here. And we have ripped off 21 episodes, I believe, 20 or 21 episodes at this point. And, we originally started out pursuing this beautiful thing here, Bitcoin, right? And it's kind of morphing a little bit further into the pursuit of sound money. But, whenever I talk to people that haven't ever heard about the show, we're just a couple of dudes being guys, hanging out, learning along the way, and trying to bring people onto the show so that we can broaden our perspectives and share their thoughts with the world and help people learn along the way. So, we hop on every Saturday morning and film our episodes, post them every single Saturday. Every once in a while, we'll sprinkle in a little extra episode, maybe read an article, maybe talk about a little topic here and there. But we've been having a fun time with it. We do have some fun traction, building ourselves a little place in the Bitcoin community, and having fun on Twitter. That is the most active social media that is where we are most active on social media, at Nick and Griff Show. And so we're having a good time on there. But yeah, so that's kind of the quick spiel, man. But it's the pursuit of sound money. But we're starting to venture out a little bit further into, real estate and businesses, and trying to find guests that do those things so that we can start learning a couple more pieces of the puzzle. What are the tax implications of this? How does this fit in with the rest of our financial plan? And what does cash flow have to do with this? So we're learning along the way and having a ton of fun doing it. And I'm excited that you're doing a podcast as well, because, it's fun to look at what you're doing and kind of compare, see what we're both doing together and having fun being on each other's shows. And so, yeah, that's kind of the quick and dirty of it.
Yeah, it's really cool what you guys are doing, especially what's cool about it is like you guys have it come in with an open mind. It's like you're learning along the way. You don't have these like predeceived notions of here's what's right and here's what's wrong necessarily. You know what I mean? Like like there's a bunch of myths out there about money or like what to do with your money and stuff like that. But getting experts on those topics and getting like not necessarily taking their all their perspectives, but like kind of like, you know, like taking a piece of it and kind of making it your own. You know what I mean? Like taking bits and pieces from everywhere of what you believe in and making, you know, your money sound, because it's not anybody else's money, it's your money. You know, you can do whatever the hell you want to do with your money, which I think is really cool. What you guys are doing. But let's talk. There's 2 picks. We got 2 tackles off the board, Nick. Evan O'Neill, which in my head as you were talking, I was like, man, I saw the Giants were on the board. I'm like, well, this is a no-brainer for the Giants. And then I'm going to screw his name up, but I'm just going to say the tackle from North Carolina, who's a dog. That guy is. Both these guys are studs. They're specimens of humans. You know, Juice says he's undersized. Dude's like 6'3", 260 pounds, and can run like a 4.8. You know, that's undersized, you know, for a lineman here. These guys are giant, massive giants, 6'8", 300 pounds. Here you go. Evan O'Neill, 6'8", 335.
Jeez. That's an animal, man.
You can't teach that. Going through watching his highlight tape here on TV here is just unbelievable. Some of the stuff these guys are able to do. It's just like another day at the office. I feel like they could just show up. Another day in the office. You know, it's unbelievable. Some of these guys are just so freaking good. It's unbelievable of just the talent that continues to come out of college football year in and year out. You know, they say that this year's like a down year. Like, man, there's some really good players in this draft. Like, still, like, it's like, man, I mean, it's crazy. I don't know anything, honestly. I usually do like a mock draft and like, 'cause I'm into stuff like that. But I know nothing about any of these players this year.
Yep.
Literally just about it. Nothing. I used to be like all into it. I was gonna post one, but on YouTube here, but I just didn't get enough time to run. I've been writing that freaking paper for forever.
Fair enough, man. Yeah, I'm kind of right there, the same boat. I said it earlier. I'm not much of a football guy
So
on a religious
Nick,
sense.
did you kind of get like your time? You know, one of the reasons why you kind of like decided to hang the cleats up, just because you know you're kind of like burnt out, kind of just kind of tired of it. Is that kind of led you on, like as you've kind of retired from football and been like, yeah, I'm just not really like ready to come back to it yet. You know, I know you were kind of coaching 7-on-7 there for a little bit, and stuff like that. But
Yeah, no, I definitely did. I got to the point where, you know, I'd given myself to the team, to every team that I was a part of. You know, whatever my role was, I had to. My standard was I got to do that as best as I can, not just for myself but for the team, right? And man, I did that 4 years consecutively. And you know, for one reason or another, and I'll put the blame on myself. You know, I never really got to find meaningful time on the field. You know, and you know, I got to a point where I was like, I am 23 years old. I'm gonna get a degree. I'm gonna graduate. I think I'm ready to start my life. You know, I'm gonna leave college. I'm gonna leave football, and I'm gonna go out and get started. And yeah, you know, I think the burnout was for sure a big piece of that. You know, I mean, showing up and going to the 6 a.m. lifts and going to the practice and going to the meetings, going to the walkthroughs, doing the summer workouts and the summer classes and the runs, the game days, man. The game days are long sometimes, man.
especially when you
And
play at night.
you know,
The
it's
night ones are the worst.
oh yeah, dude. Oh, dude, the night games, dude, were so bad. And they always made us show up so early. And it was like, you know, like if you're at a Division I program, it's one thing to show up and it's like, oh, we're hanging out on the couches in the players' lounge or whatever. No. We're laying on the floor. We're laying on the floor and like, dude, there was like nothing for us to do. And there was no reason. I'm gonna step off my pedestal there, but you know, yeah, I mean the burnout for sure can be real, you know. And so yeah, I got to that point. I was like, I am ready to move on to the next phase of my life, and I'm excited that I did do what I did. Hindsight 2020, I'm excited that I made the decision that I made. I'm 24 at this point. I guess I graduated. I was 22, but 24 at this point, been out into the real world for about 2 years now, a little over, I guess. And man, there is real life after college. And for me, it has been way more exciting, way more fun. A lot more fun things, exciting things have happened since then. Extremely grateful and thankful for the times and experiences and the friends that I made during that time. That being said, I'm excited to be outside of that world and where I'm at now. So,
Yeah, awesome stuff. I just want to give a quick shout out here to all the people listening. We got a whole 3 listeners right now. We were up to 7 at one point. All 3 listeners that are listening in right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm guessing it's mostly family and friends, but thank you all you guys for tuning in and watching and kind of hanging out with us here. The first receiver was taken off the board here, Drake London out of USC. All the stuff I've read about him, dude can play outside, can play inside, big physical body. I think he's like 6'3", like right around 200 pounds. I didn't see him ever play in college, but you know, some of these guys you just never see. They're just studs just because they're not on very good teams. I've heard this guy's pretty good. You know, I'm curious to see, again, I think a lot of these safe picks will be in the trenches. I think the skill positions are they're good, but they're still not, there's not a sure thing. Quarterback ain't a sure thing.
what quarterbacks do we have in the draft this year?
We got Malik Willis. I don't know. Looking at it, I mean, so with Atlanta taking a receiver there, you know, they signed Marcus Mariota. You know, does that tell me that, man, they're going? Do they believe they got Drake London? Now they got Kyle Pitts. You know, they must have had a high grade on Drake London here. But I'm curious to see. Do they think Marcus Mariota's their next gig, or are they gonna you know, move on? I don't know. They've moved on from Matt Ryan, so be curious to see kind of the direction that the Falcons go next. But the quarterbacks we have is Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett would probably be the only 2, in my opinion, would be taken in the first round here. But they haven't even gone yet. I don't think they're worth going for. The only people who would take a quarterback would be here is at number 9, Seattle, which is the next pick. Possibly, maybe New Orleans, possibly. Pittsburgh still there, could take quarterback. You know, what's nice is, though, a lot of these teams are picking picks right away, so we're not having to stand around. We might be able to wrap this thing up a little bit earlier than what we planned here. It's nice that they're actually taking picks pretty quick here.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, Nick, where do you think? I know you said you've been kind of like out of football here, but you know, were you able to watch some like Patriots games and stuff like that last year at all and stuff like that?
I did. I couldn't tell you what games they were. I couldn't tell you who won. I couldn't tell you what the Patriots record was. Dude, it's like I'm like completely disconnected.
Are you even into college football now? Or are you just like anti-college? Are you just anti-football now?
See, I'm not anti.
I would say that's a bad word. Anti is not the right word. You're just not passionate. You don't love the game anymore.
I'm finding that that I want to spend my time elsewhere, you know. And I wouldn't be surprised if I find myself coming back to it and enjoying it at some point later on down the road.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm really keeping my head down and working on what it is that I'm doing to build my own life right now, which is, I don't know, it feels weird to say, you know. I feel like an asshole saying that, but
Hey.
I'm excited to build what I'm doing in my career right now. I'm excited about the podcast. I'm excited about growing my faith with God. I'm excited about, dude, I just got engaged.
Congrats, Nick. Congrats. Nick got engaged. Congrats, Nick.
Yep. So I've got myself a fiance. She's in the other room hanging out. So I'm excited about building what is going to be an incredible life. It's going to be something to look back on. And man, there's just at this point there just ain't room for football.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about that. Sometimes I find myself in conversations with guys that I don't know, and it's like the default conversation is about sports and football, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, what kind of books are you reading right now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, everyone who's watching, why don't you guys put in the chat here if you guys are following along, paying attention, where you guys are watching from today. That would be awesome, just so we can interact and see where everyone's calling in or watching in from. Awesome stuff here. Our next guest probably won't be on for a little bit here, but we got some awesome, cool guests coming at you guys. Coming this way. Again, shout out to Juice for taking his time out, especially he's got 6 a.m., 6:30 workouts tomorrow morning. I mean, these coaches just don't care about, the draft, whatsoever. I don't think they care about that. Pick is in. It's the Seahawks pick. We'll see what they pick here. Again, shout out to Blake for doing all the behind-the-scenes work today, but this is kind of fun hanging out, just watching the draft, kind of just BSing, especially with you, Nick. You made it a little bit easier now that, instead of having me talk to myself, now I can actually talk to a physical human being. Makes it a little bit easier rather than just rolling over my words. Like I was waiting for you and Juice to get on. I'm like, man, might be it felt like about 4 hours I was talking. And it was I kept looking. It's only been a minute or 2 minutes. I'm like, what is going on here?
Man, it's, it really is, and we had talked about this previously, like, depending on what your topic is, you just thinking about podcasts, right? Depending on what your topic is, if you're a solo host, it can be really difficult in certain situations. I mean, at this point, you're pretty heavy on having guests on, having other
100%.
college athletes in different sports come on and share their stories, and kind of learning from each other on what the best practices are, right? And I know that I have found with our podcast that, man, having Griff with me almost every episode, I've got Griff. It's huge just to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. I mean, you and I could probably sit down and talk about something for hours and hours and hours, but it's like, how good is that content? How effective is that content? How efficient are we at moving in and out of different ideas, and having somebody else to kind of bounce those things off of is a huge help.
Oh, 100%. I used to listen to like Colin Cowherd. I'm like, how does this guy talk for 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day? And he literally talks to himself practically. I know he's got like somebody else there, but I mean, he's practically just talking to himself the entire day. The problem is I'm not like a one who likes to go off a script. I like to kind of come up as it goes. So that's probably what kills me is that like if I had a script, not necessarily like read word for word, but if I had like talking points of what I wanted to talk about throughout like the show and stuff like that, then I would probably be okay. But like I'm just not that person. I don't like script. I like it to be free flowing and just kind of like
Sure.
kind of just go with the flow, man. Like whatever comes up. Like whatever good stuff. Oh, Seattle just picked Charles Cross. This guy's another one guy, Nick, who his draft stock wasn't really inside the top 10, but now as closer and closer to the draft, more and more people liked this guy. He's another just specimen, tackle out of Mississippi State. I'm going to be honest.
6'5", 307.
Yeah, like I said, if I was playing defense and this guy came at me, I think I'd just fall down. I don't think I would try to even get in the way of this guy. That's the one thing I would not do. Some of these guys are just so big, so strong, so fast. It's crazy. It's like where I don't know if you saw the stat, like the combine, like throughout the years, like this year, the most guys ran under the fastest times, like on average ever.
Oh, really?
It's crazy. I think it's crazy how like the NFL continues to evolve with like we talk about speed and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. I think college football is kind of leading into that. Like these guys are just like, I mean, I think if you watch college football, Like there's a lot more pass interference, or like a lot more you able to put your hands on receivers. In the NFL, you can't touch them, or else that's a flag. It's crazy.
It's wild to look at. So this guy Charles Cross, he's a redshirt sophomore. So that means what? He had a redshirt year, a
I don't know if
freshman year.
do they put in COVID though? Do they? Because you get a COVID year no matter what.
It's true. Okay, well let's call it 3 years. So this guy's got to be right about 21 years old.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
younger than me.
that's crazy. Like it's pretty wild how these guys, they graduate high school, go play. Now, obviously everybody's a little different, but they graduate high school, go play college football for a few years, and then bang, you're in the NFL. I mean, that's pretty wild. That seems like such a fast transition. I mean, I'm 2 years into, not into the same career, but into the workforce.
You're in a career. You're in a job.
And it's like, I mean, even that 2 years is like, I don't know anything. I don't know anything, dude. and it feels like I've grown a lot, but like I don't really know anything, And it's wild to see that some of these guys can graduate high school and just that 2-3 years later, bang, you're in the NFL playing with the top athletes in the world, That's wild.
It's and what's crazy about this is that like the 80%, I think so. First round is like 50% of these guys are just going to be like, they won't make their second contract. I think it's at first round. I think it's 50%, and then the whole draft, I think overall is like 80%. It's crazy of like
80% don't make their second contract.
80% of these guys who get drafted do not make their make their second contract, which is wild. Think about that. 80%. Think about 80% of these guys are gonna have to find another job after this. Now, if they're smart enough, if you're picked in the first round, that signing bonus and all that stuff, hopefully it'll be like you'll be set.
Hopefully they're managing their money well.
But if I had to predict here with the Jets going, I bet they go either Garrett Wilson or Olave here. I bet they go receiver. Another weapon for Zach Wilson here. That or they go. They already got their corner. I could see him going with Hamilton, but I bet they go receiver here. Big lights, need some big plays. Need some receivers. They signed Corey Davis last year, I believe, to a big contract. They signed they drafted, I believe, what's his name? Elijah Moore, I believe his name is. They drafted him, I think, in the end of the first round or second round last year. But probably either safety or I bet money on Olave or whatever Wilson or they could go that Jameson Wilson guy who's like really fast. I don't know what it is. I'm a receiver. I think speed's important, but I think that there's some of these guys who just get over, like Ruggs, for example, just because he ran a 4.2. He's the first receiver drafted off the board. I find it interesting of how much they rely now on 40 times and stuff like that, which I think is like nothing to do with like any sort of game speed or anything like that. Like you can be a track person and just know how to run a 40-yard dash. What are your thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You said a phrase there that I think is huge, and that's game speed, right? You can be fast on the turf running a 40, but that doesn't mean that you can, change direction and avoid tackles and have strong legs to pull out of arm tackles. That doesn't mean that you've got the eyesight to see a hole, right? Obviously, we're talking about different positions here, right? But I mean, obviously, the brain side of things is pretty important when it comes to football as well. I mean, you got to be able to operate quick, make good decisions really quick. You've got to be able to not just make those decisions quick, make those good decisions quick, but you've got to be able to then react to the decisions that you're making. And then whenever you make that decision and you operate quick, then whenever things change in an instant, then you've got to make another decision to do this now instead. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just running a 40, right? I mean,
100%.
We could talk about what your height, what's your weight, what's your 40, what's your shuttle. I mean, you can talk about all these different types of metrics, but it's like, I think that the game film is really what speaks volumes, right? It's the game film. It's what do you do when the lights are on and the whistle is or you're between the whistles, between the lines, right? Whatever you want to say. I mean, whenever you're in those positions, that's when it really matters, right? Sure, if you run a faster 40 than the next guy, you may have some advantage, right? You may have some level of advantage, but that ain't it. There is an X factor that you can't measure, right? I mean, Tom Brady is a great example, right? This guy has zero of the measurables, none of them, like none of them. Great looking guy, has zero athletic tangibles, right? But what have we seen over the years? I mean, I hate to be that guy that like continues to bring up Tom Brady, right? But I mean, it's the truth,
It's a great
right?
example, but it's like think about it. I feel like you overanalyze. Like it's like football, and this is what happens in football. It's a pretty gosh darn simple game, in my opinion. Like football can be very simplified. You can be very successful playing football. We overanalyze things to say, well, his hand size is too small. He's not going to be good throwing in the cold, even though he played like that's example Kenny Pickett. Oh, his hands are too small. He can't throw in the cold. We played at Pittsburgh. So I'm curious to see like I just don't know why we scouts and people just overanalyze. If he can play football, he can play football. It doesn't matter if there's some sort of things. Oh, we got a trade. So New Orleans traded up.
Okay.
So thanks for that update there, Blake. Oh, we lost Nick. Nick is lost. I don't know what happened to Nick. Must be having some connectivity issues. No worries here. But New Orleans has traded with Washington. I don't know what they traded for. So Washington moved back 4 picks. They must have not saw somebody that they enjoy and they liked in this scenario. I don't think they're going quarterback. I think they're going for a receiver here. They saw one receiver go off the board, and so I bet New Orleans will take one. Houston will probably take one. Baltimore will probably take one. Philly will probably take one. We're going to see a bunch of receivers come off the board here, I believe, in the next 5 picks here and stuff like that. But while we wait here, we're going to take a quick little 5-minute break here. We'll be back in about 5 here. So stay tuned. Once the pick is in once we see Goodell come back in, we'll be right back. Promise you that. We're going to take a quick break. All right. See you guys in 5.
Always kind of been a very positive person, whether, talking to you now or in the locker room or out in public or wherever the case may be. What has kind of made you have that just positivity and that kind of that vibe? I think everyone feels that when they first meet you or whatever. Is that kind of just a natural thing, or do you think you've kind of developed that over time?
I developed that over time from basically from when I was younger all the way up to now. Like the more stuff that happened, like I'm not gonna say like I had like a rough childhood or whatever.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, like the stuff that I seen or stuff that happened, like I just took it as like I still gotta handle my business because I can't let this bring me down. So that as I got older, it got better. That you wouldn't even think like something is going on and everything, but I don't bottle everything in, but that was my problem in high school. I try to bottle everything in and everything. So what I do is I just talk to the people I trust and talk to the people I know and just really just release the feelings, whether it be good or bad, and just keep moving on and still handling business. Cause at the end of the day, you still I take this as I got a job to do. It's not a job, but it's something I love to do. So I'm not about to let something that happened in my life bring it down because whatever's going on.
Awesome. Yeah, I think Larry, you don't get enough credit for, how intelligent, how smart you are. I think from a lot of people. I think that's a very peach. You just kind of glow with positivity and your thought process, I think, is amazing. Do you think it's just and your maturity as well, especially coming in as an early freshman? Do you think, from Aliquippa, having to grow up relatively quickly, do you think that's where you kind of got that from?
Absolutely, because the good or bad in Aliquippa is always going to end up good, if that makes sense. Because everything that happened to a person is either where I'm at now, obviously it just helped me be a better person and a better thinker, a better everything. Like, cause I try to translate that into what I do, like whether it be in football, whether it be in a classroom, whether it be just walking around in life, like just talking to somebody. So I definitely like agree with that. Like just because I
So you being like an international player, what was it like kind of coming in first, like as a kind of an outsider? So you're not involved into like American culture. You might have like an idea like of like social media and like some other things that you hear on the news, but you haven't really necessarily been a full dive into it. What was it like kind of coming to, at least from the culture side? And then you can talk a little bit about like, the team dynamic of, you talked, there was another Swedish girl on the team already, which kind of helped, but just talk a little bit about that.
Definitely culture differences that were it was hard to get used to in the beginning. It's not really like anything like that's better or worse. It's just different. And
Yeah.
like just the food, that is a big piece that people don't really think about. And just like coaching and how I don't know, as you said, like team dynamics and really at home, like I've never called my coach because we just go by first name.
Mm-hmm.
So just that in practice being like on top of everything and like thinking like I don't want to mess up and they like forget to say coach and you're like "Duh." And it's just small things they have to get used to and it takes time and also like the language obviously. You have to think before you speak and the school on top of that is not really easy to combine in the beginning, but it's cool how you get used to it.
Yeah. What is some like things that you like enjoy about American culture, some things you dislike, and some things that like, you really like about back home, but some things that you might like a little bit better than America? There's like give or take. There's not one that's better than another. It's just like, what are some like give and takes on the different cultures or different atmospheres?
I've definitely been asked this before. It's kind of hard to answer because it's also like now I'm used to going home in the summer and everything's like it's summertime, it's nice. But then
Yeah.
like Sweden is so depressing in the winter because it's just dark from like when you wake up to you basically go to bed. So that's definitely a thing. Like people talk about the weather here being bad, but it's like it's a beautiful winter and it's a long summer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it could be bad, but it's like it's fine. And then I would say people are so outgoing and easy to talk to here in a different way that I really appreciate, especially coming new. You're never like, oh, you're not from here, or
Yeah.
maybe you have an accent or whatever. It's so easy to talk to people, and that's really nice.
Do you guys have like
Yo, we're back here. What's up, guys? Took a little quick break there. Had some technical difficulties. No worries on Nick's side. All good. We are back here. Tony Gonzalez is going to, looks like, present for the Saints. But if you guys missed out, the Commanders, new team for the Commanders, they traded out of the number 11 pick. The Saints traded up. I can't remember exactly what they traded for, but they traded back 4 picks, probably for like a fourth or third, probably like a third and a fourth round, something like that. Let's see what Tony Gonzalez is going to name the pick, which I found interesting. I don't know if he was supposed to do it for the Commanders, but he played for the Falcons, so I find that interesting. When he did that. So let's see who they pick here. At number 11, it's Austin Eckler. Oh, well, I don't know what the heck they're doing here. What's going on here? But we'll reintroduce my co-host for the night. We can call him that. Man who is awesome. Knows more financial crap about that stuff than I do. I don't know. I'd maybe give him. He's not quite Mr. Bitcoin. I'd probably give that to Griff, but the co-host of the Nick and Griff Show, Nick Burns, is back on with us. What's going on, Nick?
I did have some technical difficulties. Don't know what the deal was. My laptop was like, "Yep, we're gonna stop here."
Hey, you know what? Technologies these days is fantastic. We have to somehow learn how to be able to do that.
We are back on. That's the main thing.
You're back on. That's all that matters.
That's
Good
all that
stuff.
matters. Hey,
Vibes
so
only.
we're here talking. We're on the TO show, the draft day TO show. This is a great opportunity to talk about what is truly changing the world. Have you seen, this is one of the pieces on this, that Fidelity,
I
the
did see that.
largest retirement plan provider in the United States, is going to be rolling out a digital assets account that is going to enable people to hold Bitcoin in their retirement account, 401ks. How wild is that, man?
That is wild. Before we jump on that, Chris Olave going to the Saints, a good piece for Jameis Winston. 2 Ohio State receivers going back to back. That is really cool. Cool stuff with that Ohio State. All those Ohio State fans out there, back-to-back receivers. I figured that was the case when they traded up.
The crab
Going
man.
back to your point, Nick, I think that's really cool. No, I feel like that will be. You know what? I think it makes sense for like you and me. People who are relatively young start off that retirement account with Bitcoin, but somebody who's like close to retirement, with how the volatility rate, the beta of pretty much of Bitcoin, it's probably not something that they're going to be, drawn towards. If you know what I mean. Like I think it's going to be really cool, I'm really cool to see how this like plays out. But somebody who's like 5 years, 2-3 years from retirement, one, they're hoping that, we're reading all this stuff about the recession and stuff like that. They're hoping that, it actually doesn't happen. But I think it'll be really cool to see. I think it's going to I think it should draw to a lot of people, especially
Number one performing asset over the last 10 years. Number one by way far, which is interesting. I do agree with you though on some of the hesitancy. It's interesting. There's been tons and tons of accounts where people are like, okay, I'm going to get in, I'm going to get some exposure. Let's allocate, 5% of our portfolio. And that 5% grows into 10% and then 15 and then 25 and then 30% of their portfolios without them doing anything, without changing anything, because it just grows. It just grows so much. Now, that's kind of the dollar value is kind of the speculative part, right? The store of value properties of it is a whole different thing that doesn't have anything to do with the dollar value, which is interesting. But yeah, I saw that they had released that, did a press release on the new deal that they're rolling out with their digital asset account, which they are calling a DAA, which is going to allow people that have a Fidelity 401k to hold Bitcoin in their 401k. I thought that was really cool. That's definitely a step in the right direction. We also had, El Salvador is the very first country that adopted Bitcoin as their legal tender. And now we've got number 2 hopped on the train, and that is the Central African Republic. They are now the second country that has passed legislation to make Bitcoin its legal tender. So another small domino, right, in relative terms to the rest of the world, right? But it actually has to happen this way. You think about the game theory of the whole thing. It's got to be the small guys first. It has to be. And we could talk about that. But just another one of those dominoes that falls as everything continues to unravel.
Yeah. I think you're right, and that's how it's going to be. I think you're going to see more and more countries have to not have to, but want to adopt it in these certain ways. But again, you're right. It's not going to be the big guys. It's going to be all these smaller countries, and I think eventually the big ones are the first big one to fall. Then the rest of the dominoes, they'll be it'll be a floodgate. It'll be the dam has been broken, if you know what I mean.
So it's interesting. Was talking with a guy that we're going to have on our show here in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. He's a huge accounting guy, tax guy, geopolitical guy, and he and I had a conversation that I had not thought of before. But dude, the ramifications of if a larger country and larger in terms of GDP, if a larger GDP sized country jumps in and legalizes Bitcoin as legal tender too early, it'll destroy the mass adoption of Bitcoin. And here's why. If these all of these smaller countries that have other currencies that are not the dollar, right? We have a huge privilege here in the United States that we operate in the country with the strongest world currency, which, as we know, is crumbling as we speak. That being said, we still have the strongest currency here in the United States, right? If we were to jump in and we said, okay, we're going to start using Bitcoin as legal tender, what is that going to do? Well, Bitcoin supply is inelastic, meaning it only grows at a certain rate. And once it hits that $21 million, or once it's at 21 million total Bitcoin supply cap, it doesn't grow anymore. It's inelastic in supply. And if supply is inelastic and tons and tons and tons of economic value are flooding into it, what happens to price? It goes through the roof, right? And now if price of Bitcoin goes through the roof, what happens to all these other smaller countries that use less valuable currencies? Well, they essentially get priced out of the market, right? Simple example would be if you spent $100 to buy some Bitcoin today, it would buy X amount of Satoshis, which are portions of a Bitcoin, right? But then if price goes up by 3,000% tomorrow, and then tomorrow you buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, you would buy less Bitcoin for that same $100 because the price has gone up. Therefore, you got to spend more to buy the same amount, right? And so these smaller countries, they would have to spend more to buy the same amount, which would limit and I guess stop their ability to buy Bitcoin, and even more importantly, it would limit and or stop their ability to trade with the United States or whoever this larger country is. So as far as the game theory goes, it's got to be the small countries that buy in first as a legal tender, and then the larger dominoes got to fall. But I'm going to step off the pedestal here. We can
talk more when Griff gets on. We'll definitely talk a lot about it, and stuff like that. But the Lions, man, let me just say this: they have maybe they probably took about 5 minutes for their second pick. They maybe took about 3 minutes for this next pick with Jameson Williams. They clearly were high on Jameson Williams and Aiden Hutchinson, the two guys that they picked. I think this guy is really good. I think he is a phenomenal. I think the only thing that people didn't like is that he tore his ACL in the national championship game, or was it the national? It was either the national championship game or the SEC championship game, whatever it was versus Georgia. But this guy is blazing speed, and he is open all the time. I don't know when's the last time 3 receivers were taking. It's probably going to be 4 here, just because I put trade on the board here. Philly just traded with Houston, and I think Philly is in the place to get another receiver. So there might be a 4th receiver taking off the board here. 4 receivers in a row. Wouldn't that be crazy? I think here comes Burks from Arkansas off the board here. He's from Arkansas. He was another stud, a route runner, another big physical guy. The pick is in for them. The Eagles here.
Do you have any stats on how many of each position are typically drafted in the first round? I mean, is there like a position that's most picked in the first round, second round, whatever? Do you have any idea? I wonder. Let's see if we can't find anything.
That would be interesting to see, like picked. What on average. There's got to be at least, on average, probably 2 quarterbacks are taken. Probably at least 4 or 3 tackles are taken. Edge guys are probably in there 3. There's probably at least 1 corner, 1 or 2 corners. Probably 3 or 4 receivers, and probably 1 or 2 linebackers or safeties, because safeties aren't really as big as that. But I think I think it's going to continue to evolve. Like quarterbacks are going to continue to go. Not in this draft. Like I said, the only people left that I think would take a quarterback is Pittsburgh, right? I mean, at this point, Philly's not going to take a quarterback. Baltimore's not taking a quarterback. Houston's not taking a quarterback. You know, I don't. It's interesting. It's super interesting to see. You know, like the constant. You know, like, oh, this team did well. This team didn't do well. Like, what are we going to take from each team? And the constant evolution of the NFL of, okay, we need to prioritize receivers. We saw what the Bengals did in the Super Bowl. I mean, the Bengals had, you know, T. Higgins, you know, Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd, and they just had a quarterback. So I mean, it's crazy to see the constant evolution of the NFL, and you know what continues to drive coaches and GMs to build those teams. You know,
Absolutely.
awesome
Um,
stuff. Awesome
you've
stuff.
got to share the screen. You've got to share the screen with Griff's photo that he just shot us. He said we're hanging out here. We've got a group text, Tyler and Griff and I. Sorry, I guess it is Tyler, right? You don't go by Odie.
I go
or
by whatever you call
T.O.
me.
specifically, right?
I go by whatever you call me. I think the women married coaches are going to call me T.O. now. So there's about
Okay.
4 different. I don't know. Like I said, I told them. They said, "Are you okay with being called T.O.?" I was like, you know, whatever you come up with first, or whatever you want to call me, I care less.
Yeah, so we're in this group text with Griff, and he's like, "Man, I wish I could hop on. I'm still working right now." I think I mentioned earlier this guy's in medical sales, and he sends us this picture, and he's hanging out in an operating room. Probably that's typically what he's doing, but hanging out in an operating room. Here you go. Can I share? I didn't realize that I could share
Oh,
while
let's
we
see
were
it.
on
Hang
here.
on. We'll add it to the stream right now.
There you go. Look at Griff. Check this guy out, hanging out in the operating room.
It's a good-looking guy right there.
Gonna be hopping on here soon, so you guys should look forward to that. He'll be a fun personality to come on here because he stays in the loop with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I think and he's very passionate about what he believes in, so it's really cool to be able to talk to him, and if he disagrees, he'll let you know about it, which is awesome. I love that about Griff is that, hey, if he disagrees, he'll let you know about it. He won't be one of those people that'll be like, yeah, whatever, man. He'll be like if he believes it, then he'll say something back, which is cool, and getting a little not arguments but debates that are really cool with Griff, and seeing different sides of what you believe in. And like I said, it's so different because you guys, what is so cool about you guys, and what I wouldn't say gravitating towards you guys, but you guys had a plethora of college football knowledge of, you've been at every single level of, like, okay, you've been at FBS, you've been at, JUCO, you've been at back to FCS, FBS, back down to FCS, like, it's just like the plethora of knowledge that you guys had of, like, the stories or just the advice was just incredible, just because of, especially me as being just a freshman, not knowing as an outsider, you just don't know, like, what college football is about. Like, you don't know all the politics or all the, like, oh, you're going to have to go through this month of just hell, like every year, you never knew you had to do that, like stuff like that. You heard stuff, but you didn't think it was necessary. You thought it was like over dramatized and stuff like that. So, it's just so interesting that the plethora of knowledge you guys had.
No, it'll be fun to kind of hear what your thoughts are, I guess, this time next year when you have, I say traded, went to another team, transferred and went to another team, and have experienced not just one locker room, but now two, and different team dynamics and different team protocols. How do you operate in the gym? Whenever I was at NEO, which for you guys that don't know is a junior college, I went the JUCO route at one point, and dude, like, the way that we operated in the gym and in practices was different than the way that we operated at Albany. And that was very apparent in looking at our win-loss records. We won a championship whenever I was at NEO, and it was very apparent that the way that we operated, every single thing that we did in the way that we operate and the standards that we held for the team, I mean, that translates directly to the field. How do you show up to class every single day? How do you show up to practice every single day? How do you show up to the lift every single lift? How do you show up and how do you operate? And what is the standard that's being held there? And if that's at a high level, man, you're going to succeed not just on the field, but off the field too.
I agree. I think, like I said, and I think it starts, by example, from the top, from the top down, and from administration to coaches to, there's only so much you can do, even as like a person where, like you could be even a coach or assistant coach, but there's only so much you can do by leading by example, just because your word doesn't travel as far as, some other cats or other people, throughout that program. But going back here, Nick, I was wrong. The Eagles took Jordan Davis, that humongous. This guy might be the greatest. He might be up there with the greatest athletes of all time. I'm serious.
Really?
He might be up there with Bo Jackson. I think this guy's like 360, 6'6", 360. They'll have to put his vitals up right as I look here. He ran like a 4.8 or 4.7. He broad jumped over 10 feet. I mean, what the heck? I mean, like I said, I was the one talking about like these 40 times and stuff like that. But like for these big men, I mean, it doesn't really 10-yard splits maybe what you're taking here, but just being able to do that as a physical human being, like that's impressive.
It is wild. I mean, you go, it's funny because after you leave college and in college sports and you go work out at like a normal gym, like it does feel different, dude. Like it feels different going to a normal gym where it's not structured and people are kind of just doing their own thing. I mean, it's wild to then think back on, some of those days where it's like testing days, right? And we're doing squats and we're doing bench presses and we're doing cleans. But then the days where we're testing 40s and we're testing shuttle times, we're testing the broad jump. I mean, to see some of the top athletes in college, right, at that level, to see that and then be at the gym and be like, man, I can't believe that I got to see what I got to see,
Yeah, it is. So he's 6'6", 340. Ran a 4.78 at the combine. Broad jumped over 10 feet. Dude is a freak and just a run stopper. I mean, he just eats double teams. I mean, he just eats double teams. It's
he
crazy.
eats double teams for breakfast, baby.
I mean, and he's quick. I mean, he's fast. I mean, that Georgia team was unbelievable. That defense last year, whatever Kirby Smart's doing, to whatever he's paying his I don't know. I don't want to cause speculation, but whatever he's paying his players or getting these NIL deals to come to Georgia, I don't know what the heck he's doing, but it's working. It's crazy to see these just humans of just come out. I mean, no wonder why he's a first round pick. It's just crazy. I mean, the Philly clearly was high on him. They went to go get his guy. I mean, he's probably going to replace Fletcher Cox with us here today. Or in the future because he's getting older. But man, I think we got a surprise guest with us here today. This is gonna be really cool here. Jumping on the live stream, you think I'm an old head? This guy is an old head. He's a fifth-year guy when I was a freshman at UAlbany. This guy, outside of EB, this guy might have some of the biggest biceps I've ever seen in my entire life. This guy's a physical specimen right here. We got Kareem Brown coming on the live stream here with us. What's up?
What's
KB?
going on? What's going on? How y'all doing?
The ultimate old head in the house. Look at him. Here he is. Hey,
What's
talk
up?
about a testing day. This guy
can test.
This guy is an
This
animal.
guy can test with the best of them.
What's going on, man? What you talking about? I can test.
We are just hanging out here. It is the TO Show Draft Day edition.
Oh,
We're just
man.
hanging out, talking draft, talking college football, talking previous experiences.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, I got to shoot a text to Kareem. I got to send him the link. And here
Yeah.
you are.
you know, I show up and show out. You know, that's me. So I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Kareem, what was your journey through college football? You started out at Coffeyville, correct?
Yeah,
Did you start out at Coffeyville?
correct. Yeah.
You
So
started out
I
at
see.
Coffeyville and finished up at Albany.
Yeah. So I started off at Coffeyville. I played a year and a half there. I played with a lot of guys, a lot of D1 guys at Coffeyville, and trust me, it was one of those things where you really had to get it out the mud. Ridiculous, just the amount of people that comes to a JUCO, especially being from Alabama. You know, I didn't really know much about JUCO in general, but yeah, I did a year and a half at Coffeyville. Luckily, it was funny because our cornerbacks coach was looking to recruit a DN from Coffeyville, and we was at practice, and I guess the coach saw me flying around. Got back to the cornerbacks coach, and I ended up receiving an offer maybe 2 or 3 months later from Albany. Made my decision, all based on Coach Clark. He gave me the rundown, he gave me the talk, and then from there, it was I accepted, and then there we are.
And here you are. So you're now in New York City. You're still in New York City, yeah?
Yeah, I'm still in New York City. I right now I run my own personal training business. On top of that, I do part-time at a company called Tonal. Basically your own personalized home gym. So yeah, I've been in New York City for maybe 2 years, 2 or 3 years, yeah, coming up, something like that.
How has the transition out of college football been? I always like to be the guy that's kind of bridging the gap between, Odie's a current player right now, and if you haven't been following, he is currently transitioning from Albany to William and Mary.
Oh man!
So he is still a college football player.
Yeah.
You and I are out, and I kind of have been this kind of transition between the two. What has your journey been leaving college football and now moving into, I guess we could call it, the real world?
Yeah. Transitioning from, excuse my voice is a little hoarse, so transitioning from college football was it wasn't an easy thing. I got my degree in Homeland Security. Coming out of college, I wanted to be, Secret Service, police officer of that deal. That didn't work out. So I chose the next path that I felt like would be close to a passion of mine, close to sports. Personal training just landed in my lap. My first personal training job was at Equinox here in New York City, and from there it was like a rocket ship. So I just took off from there. Other than that, I mean, the transition is, I would say, hard, just because I didn't really know too much about real world things, rent, all type of bills, unnecessary bills that you have. I got a dog too on top of that, so there's an extra bill on top of that. Yeah,
that dude is huge now.
Oh man, he just came in the door. I don't know if you heard it, but that was him coming through the door. But no, man, it was hard at first, especially, but it got easier, as I kind of, honed down and kind of drilled on the things that were most important to me. So
beautiful. Odie, what do you got?
KB.
What's up, Odie?
Do you think there should be some sort of class or something? You talked to paying bills and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I feel like in high school, at least in high school, or at the least at college, you can learn about all this crap about Homeland Security business or stuff like that. But
Right.
you still have no idea how to pay your bills, pay rent, or do these other normal things that
Right.
nobody teaches. What are your thoughts on there should just be an elective or a class requirement that you already have to take, a gen ed or whatever it is. Shouldn't you just have to take one of those classes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts in high school. It was actually I want to say a high school in Florida started doing a financial literacy class in high school, which is great because honestly, I didn't know about credit growing up. I didn't know about how much rent actually costs. You know how credit works and works and getting a credit card and then having to pay your bills on top of that. So yeah, I definitely think in college, yes, you have guys that go into finance, so they kind of understand a lot of those things, but it's not a gen ed. It's not a required course. But I think if they make it a gen ed, or if you have the opportunity to take a financial literacy class in college, I think it's a big deal, especially for me, especially because I didn't know about credit. My mom really wasn't. She didn't really tell me about credit in general. So I feel like credit, I think, is the biggest thing people should learn about, most importantly, because it's kind of what, as I'm growing up now, I've learned like credit is a big thing that you tend to lean on when you don't have the actual right money for it. So financial literacy is definitely an important topic in high school and in college specifically, because you're getting out of college, right? You're finding out you don't want to live with your mom, so you have to find the right apartment, or you have to have a co-signer, things like that, just to even get you right. You have to have a what did you call it? A guarantor. A lot of people don't even know about guarantors, but if you don't have the credit, you have to have a guarantor to even get the apartment leased to you. So if your parents have messed up credit, you have to find a guarantor that you don't even know to basically try to vouch for you, so you can get the lease on an apartment. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into financial literacy. That's really behind the scenes, that when you get into the real world, they become a top priority for you, especially just living in general. So yeah, high school, if you have that opportunity in college, definitely take that. That is a must, that you must take a financial literacy class. So that's my take on it.
I couldn't agree with you more there, Kareem.
I think it should be more. I think it should, yeah, like I said, I think it should be more or less about like putting you in different situations of what you need to do, or even just say, hey, here's how to set yourself up success.
Yeah.
Outside of college. I mean, think about it. I mean, we're fortunate enough to, like, all of us were on scholarship while we were at Albany, but
right.
They teach us, we got to be in, you got to pay for student loans, and got to pay those back, and then they tell you, well, then you got to, or you have all these credit card people trying to get your money while you're in college and stuff like that, and get you bad credit, and then you come out and then you try to, you try to buy a car, or you try to, buy a house and stuff like that, and you're paying 4 or 5 times more for that house just because of how bad your credit is throughout there.
Exactly.
I just think it's so important to have some sort of financial insight. I think is really cool to have that. But Reem, what has been some things like, how did you kind of get into like personal training? Like, was that an easy kind of like avenue, just because we as college athletes, we love to like lift weights and like work out and shit like that. Would you say is that what just kind of like easy to kind of just go down that avenue?
Yeah, I think I like to talk more so about personal experiences. For me, it was definitely easy because I was always used to like communicating with people. That has never been a problem with me. But it was just it was easier for me because I was able to come in. I'm a hard worker. The way I like to think I'm a hard worker. So I come in and I'm just about business. That was my whole thing of coming up to New York City, was to be strictly about business. I'm going to work, I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to do what I got to do. And then I'll let the chips fall where they may. So, I mean, for me, it was definitely easy, just because coming from, that football background, I had the body that people wanted, which made it easier for marketing purposes, like in the gym. But I mean, as far as just coming in and just putting in the work and the hours, I felt it was easy for me just because, sports in general, football, you both know, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to a meeting at 6, to have workouts at 7:30, 8, and then go straight to class, after class after class. And then afternoon, 1 to 2 p.m., you're at football practice, or you got meetings and then practice. and then we practice 2 to 3 hours, and then you're going right back to class for some of us, and then you're not going to sleep until 9, 10 o'clock, waking up doing the same thing over again. So I mean, for me, that whole process, especially going to Equinox, I don't know if y'all have heard of Equinox before, but it's for me, I like to call it a boot camp for personal trainers. I think if you're a personal trainer, you should definitely go to or get a job at Equinox and just get that feeling of like ramping up, because you'll be there all day. But yeah, I mean, the whole process was easier for me just because I'm used to lifting. My experience in lifting has been, I guess, at the D1 level, so you would call it elite. So yeah, I mean, my process was pretty easy. Some people, may have it harder than me, but that they may not be cut from the same cloth as me. So they're not able to handle certain situations, experiences within the industry. So yeah, for me, that process was relatively easy. Me, just because I came from that football experience.
Last question here, KB, before we let some more guests in here
For
on the conversation here. What would you give advice to? What if you had to give like 2 or 3 pieces of advice to anybody out there who like wants to get into, not necessarily, but wants to get like their body right or get in the right mindset to want to get back into shape again? What are some like pieces that you think you've seen success over time? Because at the end of the day, it has to somewhat come internally.
Right.
You can do whatever you want, but you're the one making the choices. Nobody's making you do it.
Correct.
Like where it is college football, where you're forced to do it. You're
Right.
frankly forced to do certain things.
The first thing I would say is just be consistent. I mean, treat it like you would a job, right? You wake up for your job, right? You go to work all day. Same thing. Put that same energy into your body. You can ask Nick Dillon. Nick Dillon did it. He put the work in. He's a living example of putting the work in, staying consistent, and just grinding it out. And the second thing would be it's really you versus you. There's no competing with nobody else. You can only compete with yourself. And for me, those have been my 2 biggest pillars that I've lived on since I got out of college. So, be consistent, and it's just you versus you. So that's really it. That's what it comes down to.
Nick, you got any more questions before we let some other guests in here?
Man, I'll say one last thing, and Kareem, you'll think that this is funny. I'm not going to name any names here, but whenever we went to Pitt and that chair got blown up in the locker room, whenever we first got there, dude, that was too funny, dude. That's still one of the funniest things I ever saw happen, dude. I mean, everybody's serious, we go through our walkthrough, we're out on the field, we're first game of the season, everybody's tight, and then we go in, we check out the locker room, Coach G's in there, everybody's kind of serious. Bang! This chair blows up. It was like, oh snap! This is broke the tension right there. Everybody's cracking up laughing.
It was crazy.
Got a big old boy sit down in them little chairs, little flimsy chairs, and that sucker blows up. Man, everybody's cracking up laughing.
No, man. It was some good. Albany, we had some good time. We got a lot of good memories, man. So
fun stuff for sure.
Oh yeah.
Kareem, thank you for hopping on. This is
absolutely.
an absolute pleasure.
No,
Thanks,
for sure.
Kareem.
Yeah.
Talk to you later, brother.
All right. Y'all take care.
All right. Our next guest that we have on here with us, guy who's been on the podcast before, absolute stud, maniac of a human being. We got D-Bird on with us here today.
What's up, guys?
He's rocking the shirt. Bro, he's rocking the shirt.
Yes,
I love
sir.
it.
Yes, sir.
He's rocking the shirt.
Gotta put the shirt. Honestly, I had the shirt on before I joined. I'm like, it's
that's
perfect.
even better. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff, D-Bird. Thanks for joining us, brother.
Of course, man. How are you doing?
Doing just fine. Yeah, I saw you been balling out spring ball this year, man. I'm excited. I'm pumped for you, seeing that you guys you and Maison have found like an awesome home that
You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to
you've
be able to
continued
talk.
to just like improve and find like the right home where you're just passionate and just love football.
No, yeah, no doubt. I think I found the right place for me. Like the defense they run fits my play style, which is see ball, get ball. I'm not a bigger guy, so like with this defense, we have a lot of smaller guys on the defense, so they're using our attributes, which is speed and quickness. And they put me in the right position at the right time. Like they call the perfect blitzes for me, where I can blitz off the edge because I'm quicker than the ends and stuff like that. So I feel like the defense that I'm in, it just fits real well with my play style, and I feel really comfortable here. And the playbook, the way that our coach put the playbook out, he threw a lot at us, and pretty much it just helped us make sure you're on top of your game, make sure you know what you're doing, and play calls. And I feel like they just put me in the right spot at the right time. Sorry, I'm in class as well as we're doing this too. So, a lot going on. The draft's on. I'm in class. I'm trying to do this. It's a lot. But
Student
NYC,
athlete.
they
Hey, you're bouncing it really well.
Hey man, you see this? We have a Hall of Famer, so guest speaker on our call right now. It's really dope to learn all of that. So yeah, it's cool, man.
Hey, we used to be locker mates, D
Facts.
and I.
Yes, sir.
And man, how many fun stories we got just for being, we're hanging out here, just kind of hanging out, talking about college football. It's obviously draft day. We're hanging out talking about some draft stuff. And leading up to that draft, man, how many memories do you think these guys have made in their locker rooms, with their locker mates, with all the time that you spend with your teammates? I mean, dude, I am so thankful and grateful for all of the experiences I've had with all my teammates up to this point. And you're most certainly one of those guys. I mean, dude, you remember that one time we tried to fill up a pool. We tried to fill up a pool in the middle of summer with a freaking sink hose, it was like a sink, but the hose didn't connect to the sink, so we just had to hold it there. Dude, I mean, it took us probably 4 hours to get this thing like this far filled up.
We got ice
We
cubes.
hung out in it for like 20 minutes, and we were like, this kind of sucks.
No doubt. Definitely endless memories, man. Like I took it for granted during COVID. Like we all were at home. You take for granted like the locker room time. Like you'll never ever be able to like replicate that or like replace that time that you have with your brothers and stuff like that. And like that story, I will always remember. Like, bro, we bought ice cubes to try to fill it up. Like we did endless crazy things. That pool still sits in that basement of that house. Like never been used again, but it's still there. Like I would never.
That is
forget
too
that.
funny.
Yeah,
That is too funny. So how are you liking it, man? I mean, you at this point, because you started your career at Albany, correct?
Yep. Yes, sir. Yep.
So at this point, because I had the pleasure of going all over the place, seeing all different types of teams. Odie and I were talking about the standard operating procedures of being on different teams and stuff. You are now at this point where you have seen a standard operating procedures on another team. What are some of the major things that you see are different, and how has that broadened your perspective of college football in general?
I think the biggest thing that has changed for me is going from Division I to D2. Is kind of like you don't have as much stings as a D1 player would have. So like I took for granted like all the cleats that we used to get, all the gloves that we get, all the compression pants, like in that aspect. But I feel like college ball, like at this level, especially at this school I'm at, it's so many D1 transfers that it's kind of ran as a D1 school. Like our weight trainer, he reminds me so much of Barber because he's no bullshit. Like he's straightforward and he wants this has to be done the way he wants to be done, and that's the winning culture, the mindset kind of thing. So I think the biggest drop off was just having the amount of stings that we had at D1 level to D2. That was like probably the biggest adjustment I had was not having as much resources as we had. But the mindset is still there, especially with how all the guys that we brought in to this school, like everybody has the same winning mindset. Like we're gonna have to work our asses off a little bit harder just because we don't have as much as the next program will. But I mean, it's very cool to see like, okay, I was here in this situation. Now I'm here. How do I develop? And I adapted really well to my situation. I think just because who I am, it helped me do that. But yeah, it's been a crazy process, man. And having like we said, Maison's also here with me. Dev Holmes is also here with me. Having people that I played with prior makes it feel more like home, and I felt comfortable. Like I can go to them like, okay, you also feel that this is very different than where we come from, and we can relate to that, and then like grow a plan to like, okay, we're not used to this, so this is how we're gonna do it together, type of thing. So it's pretty dope.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
well, I'm happy to see that you got a good transition there. So
yeah, awesome stuff. Yeah, just to give you guys a heads up on what's going on with the draft. the Titans just traded A.J. Brown for the 18th overall pick and a 3rd round pick. So if
I'm
you're
a Philly
a
fan,
Eagles
so
fan out there,
I'm a
that
Philly
is
fan.
huge for the Eagles. I thought they were going to take their receiver. They got their pick. They got this pick from Carson Wentz, the number 18th from the Colts. They used it for an awesome pick. Smart play by the Eagles.
That's huge.
Getting Jordan Davis and
2
A.J.
offensive
Brown
threats.
in this scenario. I didn't think he was going to be on the move, but I guess he is. And that means they're going to have to pay him, but I bet he'll get a nice fat check.
Shoot, that's 2 offensive threats right there, man. That's huge.
That is cool. That is cool stuff. Awesome. So D. Burt, what would you say? You guys, you said you were kind of being pushed in a position to kind of succeed. What would you kind of like take your pluses and minuses? And I'm not trying to put you in this situation, but like, what would you say some positives from both Albany and like, New Haven that you've kind of like taken away from it?
Positive, like on the field wise or outside of football?
Everything. Throw it all in there.
Well, I'm gonna first talk about like off the field wise. Being that I'm from New York, lived in New York my whole life, and then went to school in New York, and now living outside of New York in a different state, in a different environment, it made me adapt to my environment because I'm not used to living somewhere that's so different than where I'm from. As in like Albany, real city like where I'm from, real city like out here, everything's so far apart, everything's really different. So like how to adapt to that. And then football wise, man, I feel like in my mind, football is football no matter where you are. If you ball, they're gonna find you. And my mindset into this was like, okay, I know I'm at a lower level, but if I work hard, play my game the way I need to, I can have the opportunity, even a chance to get to the next level. And that's kind of how I took it. And learning from like the coaches at Albany, I took what they told me and added to the stuff that I'm learning here. So I can see like my game style is still from what I learned from Albany, but I'm also learning new keys, new reads, new steps from the coaches here. So I just taking a little bit of all and collaborating all together and making it my own way type of thing. It's going well, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like
that's awesome. Yeah, it seems like it's been going well. I still follow a couple of the New Haven coaches, but it was so super cool to see you like just being able to like perform at such a high level and see you succeed because like I feel like you've been like on the edge of like breaking through like your last like practically 5 years you've been at Albany. Like finally seeing you like seeing people succeed always makes me happy, and especially good people just like you, D. Burt.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, man, it's been a hell of a journey, I would say. I mean, even going back to high school, I was under-recruited. I broke my leg in high school, was under-recruited. I only had one Division I offer. And then going to Albany, man, redshirted my freshman year, having an opportunity to start my sophomore year, breaking my leg then, and then just going throughout like injuries and just like not, like you said, almost getting that point where I can just take off. And then being here, like when I sat down with the coaches, they pretty much gave me the opportunity to do that. And they said, we're going to put you in the right place at the right time. And now it's just up to you to do it. And I've been waiting for my chance. And I always said, like, always prepare. So you never have to be ready. Like you're always ready. You feel me? And now I just feel like I'm ready to do that and ready to take over this position that they're putting me in and ready to pretty much make plays and put my name in the world. I mean, I'm excited, man.
Awesome stuff, man. If you guys, I'm telling you, any Division I football player or anybody who's like even trying to look to transfer, make sure you guys go check our episode out with Maison, D. Burt, and I. I think it was some really good insight, especially from D. Burt and Maison about like, hey, what is the transfer portal like really about? Yeah. I think if anybody's even considering it, you guys make sure you guys go check that out. Just because, man, I think these guys provided some awesome insight, about what's going on.
And to add to that, I've recently, even after our interview that we had about it, I have people come to me asking me questions about the portal, and I've been able to benefit them. I hope so. I mean, they're telling me I have helped them in the process, but like going from being like a blind eye to having like a little assistance or a little help into it, it really can be useful. So like my social medias are all out there, and if you guys ever have any questions, can be more welcome to like DM me or shoot me a call, because I've been in the process before, so now I can help you get there and even point you the right direction. Like my biggest advice to some players was trying to find coaches to reach out to. So like when people hit me up that are in the portal, I already did the research. I followed other coaches. Correct. I already did it. So I tell people like, go to my Twitter, go to my followings, and go to the coaches that followed me back. Those are the coaches that are interactive on their pages that are actually looking for players, because there's a lot of coaches that don't really answer back, but like the people that follow you back, those are the ones that I'm telling people, like, go reach out to them, because if they follow me, why can't they follow you? Like, we're all in the same boat. Let's help each other out, type of thing. Like, I already did the work, so here's a process for you to do it. And like, I think it could be useful, man.
That's dope.
Awesome
boy.
stuff, D Burt. Well,
No
Nick,
doubt.
if you don't have any more questions for D Burt, again, D Burt, thanks for coming on. A little live stream here.
Yes,
Enjoy
sir.
your class. Enjoy the draft. You know, looking back at the pick, they actually did a good job at the Titans. I think did a good job there, but also make sure you guys, if you need some more financial insight, you know, make sure you guys check out the Nick and Griff show too as well.
Well, I appreciate you boys for having me, man. It's always great to speak to you guys. And Nick, I haven't spoke to you in forever, man. Give me a call, man. We have to talk about that.
Absolutely, brother.
Awesome stuff,
All right,
D Burt. Awesome stuff. See you, D Burt.
See you, Dave. Good stuff.
Awesome stuff. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about let's introduce our next guest here. You know, another one of our good buddies at UAlbany. Man, we can talk probably about UAlbany stories for probably the rest of the night if we could. Honestly, a guy who's another stud. Guy who again also loves to speak his mind, which I love that about him. We got Nico Coleman coming on with us. Nico, what's going on, man?
What's up?
How you doing, man? I see
I'm
you. Look at
doing
all
great.
those shoes. Look at all those J's you got behind you, man. Look at that. Look at that closet full of stuff.
Yeah, it's been doing that for a while. I've been doing that since I was like 15, I think 14, like 8th grade. I started.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, let's go reveal a little bit about kind of like what happened here with the draft. I thought it was interesting that Tennessee traded, pretty much said, all right, Treylon Burks, you're another Debo, you're another AJ Brown type of body here. We're going to trade you away. We're not going to pay you. Instead, we're going to draft somebody in the draft that we find and get some draft capital with it, with getting the 3rd round pick for it as well. What are your thoughts, Nico, on that pick there?
I mean, I think it's great. You know, it's the more assets you can get. I mean, you can't. I mean, as you know, you can't win it. You can't win anything with one guy. You know, trading these picks and getting more assets is always going to help. I'm always a fan of that. Yeah, trading. You know, especially the AJ Brown trade. I thought that was crazy because now they're out 2 of their top receivers. So I don't really see how that works. But you know, they got guys that are paid a whole lot more money than I am to even think about it. So I don't see what they see, but you know, it's they must be all in on the run this year.
Awesome stuff. Awesome
They're
stuff.
all
Yeah.
for it.
Another FCS guy, I guess here he's going to the Saints. Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. I'd love to see all these FCS guys going in the top 32 in the 1st round, getting some love, which is awesome. But Nico, why don't you just talk a little bit? You haven't been on the TO show. We're planning on getting you on here, but just talk a little bit about kind of like your path to UAlbany and you know kind of what you're doing right now.
I had a little bit of a different path. Like Nick, I went to a junior college. I wasn't recruited out of high school much at all. I was about 235 pounds, I think, on a good day. So that doesn't cut it for pretty much any division to play offensive line. So I went JUCO, put on some more weight, and then you know I got hurt my freshman year. Actually, I broke my wrist. Couple games into the season. Which I still didn't get a medical red shirt for, and I'm still mad about that. I would have got the COVID years back too. But so I went JUCO and then ended up picking up a few offers, and then I figured this is a great situation to play down the street from my house. You know, I'm about 7-8 minutes from campus.
Yeah.
So it kind of was a no-brainer at that point, especially with that year we were going in to play Pitt. And then they looked like they were building off a good. I mean, we didn't have a great season in 2018, but you know, we looked like we were building into something good, which you know we saw came to fruition in 2019.
So you're telling me you still got eligibility with that broken wrist, fool?
I tried. Oh my God, I tried. I asked. I might have emailed Melissa Peach probably 15 times. 2018 and 2019, and I think I emailed her like right after the draft in 2020 because I saw another kid get his eligibility back from like his freshman year. So
Dude,
I wish.
that would have been wild if you had ended up going back to Albany and playing another year.
Well, what do you think? I would have got 2 because I would have played the COVID spring, whatever. Would you play 3-4 games?
You
So the
didn't miss
COVID
out, Nico. Let me promise you that.
Yeah.
I think you're all right when you retired. You retired at probably we all
Going
you
out
guys
on
kind of
top.
ridden off into the sunset. I think in,
Yeah,
in
pretty
the right
much.
time.
So I
It
can't.
really is wild to think about some of that stuff, because whenever Nico and Griff and I, whenever we finished up our college careers, was right on the back end of that. I mean, right at the beginning, right before all that stuff got crazy with
That
COVID.
COVID stuff was crazy, guys. You guys have no idea how crazy
Yeah.
that stuff.
I got to see some of it because me and Nick Griffin continued to train after that, but we were doing our pro day stuff right before you guys started spring ball. So we were still doing everything for our pro day, and this was a week before our pro day. So, that was the pro day. We had Jawan, Eli, Jaron, Griff, Sean, me, Nick Griffin. Like, it would have been a good showing. And they already had a ton of scouts lined up, ready to go, especially for those, top 3 guys, Jaron, Eli, and Jawan. But, opportunity is opportunity, but it is what it is. These guys still made it, all credit to them. It's amazing to see that even during a COVID year that we still put 3 guys in the league.
Nico, you're one of the guys that played college football and then after pursued the NFL. You did a pro day. You've played in the spring league and again got to experience another injury. What was that process like? And it's draft day 1 right now. What have some of these guys gone through as far as their training process? I know obviously guys train at different places, they train different styles. There's different positions that train different types of things. But what was that process like for you? And what are some of the major things that these guys that are in the draft right now? What are some of the things that have led them up to where they're at?
There's a lot to it. Between the training, the training is rigorous. We had a lot of guys do different things. Eli went down to test. Jaron went home. Jawan would split time at Albany and a training facility in Jersey. So me specifically, I stayed here and I trained with my trainer, who still trains me to this day, and now I coach with him. I trained with Barber in the mornings, and then I would wait until the afternoon or nighttime around, it depended on the type of day, but generally speaking, it would be 7:30 at night, and then would go back 6 a.m. in the morning with Barber. So, and that was 4 or 5 days a week. So the thing is, I learned through that process is hard work is such a relative term. Saying you're working really hard, it comes at a cost, at recovery, at sleep, at diet. That was the one thing. I wouldn't say it's a regret because it's something I've learned and I've been able to grow into, and it's opened up more opportunities for me after the fact, is taking my diet seriously, more seriously than I did originally. I look back to some of the things I was eating, and this is something, Odie, you have an eligibility left. This is something I suggest to any of those guys. Your diet dictates everything. Your diet and your sleep dictate your performance every day. You can argue it as much as you want that you don't need sleep, that you can eat whatever you want. And we've seen it with guys that could eat McDonald's before practice and still perform. Some people are blessed to have that, but most of us aren't. And your diet and your sleep was the most important thing I figured out through my pro day training. Because like I say, if you're putting in 2 hours of workouts a day, 4 hours of workouts a day, or anything in between, you need to fuel your body correctly, whether that's sleep, food, etc. The training room does a lot too. Making sure you're in the training room. That's one thing I do miss was the training room, especially, still training. Even at the spring league, we didn't have a full-fledged training room. It was kind of like, what we had for game day in hotels, because we were all in a hotel in Indianapolis. So it was the same type of thing where you got what you got there. You got tape, rollers. That's about it. there wasn't Normatex. There wasn't, the ice tubs. There wasn't any of that. But that was the biggest thing, is just train. Every day is train, and then wait for that opportunity.
Nico, do you think that the spring league will ever be a thing? Like we've seen like, we've had some like stints of like great, not necessarily greatness, but like short
Yep.
runnings, like with these spring leagues. Do you think they'll ever be successful, Nico?
There's a hunger for football. Like, there's a reason why we did it, and there's a reason why we watched the draft, and there's a reason why, I played with, I've seen guys that were draft picks. I've seen these guys do it in action. And there's those guys come and go. The NFL it's hard. These guys, people are on the cusp. The biggest thing I figured out in the spring league was that talent is the same across the board. Guys in the league, guys out of the league, guys out of the league can be more talented than guys out, or guys in. Sorry about that. So guys out of the league could have immensely more talent than guys in the league. It's not about that. It's about, are you following direction? Are you taking coaching? Are you a good teammate? That stuff matters more. Like, I know it's a cliche that we talk about, but that stuff matters so much more. So the talent is there. You see it with the USFL. You saw it with the AAF. You saw it with the XFL, their last stint. There is enough talent out there to fill leagues. It has to work. It's just, there's a lot of things that go into it. What the USFL did is great right now. It's going well. Their attendance might not be great in games, but people are tuning in. People are tuning in to watch them play. And then the XFL is going to come and try to do the same exact thing. And if anybody remembers, you can still look this up to this day. The XFL broke even a week. They made money during one of their last weeks. And that is unheard of, especially in a startup, because that is what it is. It's a startup at the end of the day. It's something that's new. It's being brought to viewership. I think it has to work, but it's going to take a very specific group to do it. The USFL looks like they're doing great right now. So we'll definitely see. I mean, I think competition brings the best out of everybody. And I think when the XFL comes in and they compete, because a lot of people also don't know this, the USFL contracts have a 2-year clause in them. They have a player clause. So they don't have to let you leave. If they want to keep you in the USFL, they're going to keep you. They're going to try to keep all the talent that they accumulated this year. They're going to try to hold on to it as close as they can. So I think we'll see when the XFL comes around how it's going to work, but I think competition is going to bring the most out of that, because we've never seen 2 spring leagues at the same time. I think the last time we saw that had to have been, the 80s? Maybe. 2 spring leagues is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see, because I try to tune in and watch it, and I find it really tough to watch. And I understand it's like the first year and stuff like that. But do you really think that people are going to want to watch that with that? Because I understand there's a reason why those guys aren't on NFL teams,
Yes.
and I'm not saying like they're terrible, because they're probably better than me. I'm not denying that, but like, do we think that the viewership, people are going to stick with it, even though like, you're not playing at the same high level as the NFL? Because I'm going to be honest, like, I watched a couple Easter weekend, and it was really, like, I would watch for like a couple drives, and I'd turn away because I'm like, this sucks. And then I would come back, like I said, because it's just football. I understand, like, it's football. You're just watching it. And then you would come back and you'd be like, man, this sucks again. Why am I even watching it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's been a lot to watch, especially as somebody that wanted to be in that league. I mean, I got a contract to be in that league. And, it's frustrating to watch me, from a viewer's perspective, seeing, certain things not be up to the standard that I would expect. You know what I mean? That, as we all know, like, I mean, I think there's certain positions that stand out. There's only so many good quarterbacks. I
think that's the toughest one. Is like the NFL can't even have 32 like good quarterbacks, and so like having the quarterback play, I feel like dictates
It's tough.
like the majority of like the league. Like if the NFL had no quarterbacks, it probably would suck.
Well, you have to be in a good situation. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, in our spring league, we had a quarterback, like in the spring league, our quarterback right now is on the Bears. So he's a practice squad quarterback on the Bears. There's a lot of things that go into it. I mean, from a football person, I look at, they ran an air raid attack. So simpler routes, less thinking, 10 personnel basically the whole game. And he shined. So it depends. There's a lot of guys that I know are talented. I mean, we've played, I mean, even Vinny is still trying to play too. I mean, he's a talented guy. I mean, there's a lot of talented quarterbacks that are out there. And it depends because these guys are still good. All these guys have been in the league. Every quarterback I think that's in the USFL right now has been in the league. But like you said, if you're a very talented quarterback and you fit a good system, they're going to keep you. Quarterbacks are so hard to come by. Like you said it's hard to get 32 good NFL quarterbacks every Sunday in the NFL. So trying to hold on to these guys is insane. But you see in all of these leagues that quarterback always stands out. You know, the AAF had a few standout quarterbacks that went to the league. The XFL had PJ Walker, I think was the main one that got signed. He was electric. He was fun. He was fun as anybody to watch in the XFL. I don't know if you watched that when it aired originally, but he's still on the Panthers. He started a few games this year. So you'll have guys that stand out. The quarterback, the talent is there, but, you know, just like anybody, they got to be put in the right positions. You know, if Odie, we told you to run, you know, 50 fade balls a game at 6 foot and just take jump balls all game, you know, that's not putting you in the most successful position to win. You know, it's or like you try to put me at tackle. Like, yeah, could we do it? Could we be successful to some amount? Yeah, absolutely. We've seen you go on top of people's heads before and come down with the ball. But consistently doing this through a game, like I could play tackle, but I did it in JUCO, but I'm not in the best position to succeed. And I think a lot of these guys, it's less of the talent, but the scheme around it. Like, they don't have a full off season to try to plan around a quarterback. Quarterback's already got hurt. They're already bringing in new guys. Quarterback for the Generals, I think, had 2 days of practice. Already ready to go. That's hard to succeed. You saw, I mean, think about how complicated our offense was at Albany under Davis. Imagine trying to come in after a few days and running that offense at quarterback.
In a game.
What?
I said in a game.
The only thing that's going for the USFL is I feel like the guy who didn't eat a chicken sandwich and wanted pizza is getting more attention.
He's getting more attention than anybody, and
the actual games.
He's one of the most talented running backs too. But like I said, like, you don't know what the real story is. I mean, but like I said, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like, I got to be around a lot of those guys. I mean, those guys are all extremely talented. There's not a lack of talent, but it's the lack of the details. And it's corny to say. It's all like the things we get yelled at by coaches, but it's real. I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, I witnessed the reason why some of my teammates played multiple years in the NFL, why some guys only did mini camps, why some guys only had half a season on a practice squad. And the difference was little details. There wasn't a big difference in talent in those guys. Why did this guy play 4 years active? Why was this guy half a year active? Why was this guy on the mini camp? Why was this guy in a practice squad? Like, the talent is there. It's the little things. Like, are they doing stuff right off the field? Are they eating right? Do they care about the play? Do they care about their teammates? You know, things like that. Are they watching film? There's a lot to it, but the talent is going to be there. But like you said, it's the biggest thing right now is somebody apparently getting kicked off the team for a chicken sandwich or a pizza over chicken salad. So you never know. You never know at the end of the day. You know, stories are stories, but it's interesting.
They should just make a Hard Knocks out of like this.
Apparently they are. That's what that clip came from.
I feel like that would get more. People are looking for football. I feel like people would, instead of watching the games, they'd rather just watch those Hard Knock clips.
Well, you look at F1. I mean, F1's a great example of the Drive to Survive. I mean, that got a lot of people into F1 over the last couple of years.
Yeah, they've always had a fan base though as well. Like in the U.S., they've never been big because like NASCAR, but like in the Europe, F1 is like the biggest sport.
Huge, yeah, it's the thing. So I agree with you, but I'm saying those things do get fan involvement because I think that was the biggest thing they're missing out. Like, PJ Walker was electric. Everyone already knew him in the XFL. Yeah. Like, he lit it up. Week 1, you knew that was the best guy in the league, and they ate that up. They attacked it in the media. They went in their advertising. They did everything the right way. They don't have that yet, and somebody's going to stand out. Like, you know, we're week 3. Somebody's going to stand out. I mean, the Breakers have a D lineman that's pretty good. And, you know, he's the biggest known right now for trash talking, but he's also backing it up with a couple sacks a game. So it's like they'll find their marquee guys. And I think that's the biggest thing about these leagues is not having those marquee guys. Like you at least in the XFL had Cardell Jones, PJ Walker, you know, a few guys that you already knew who they were. You watched them in college. They lit it up in college. They were good players. And now you have a fan base already set up. You have Ohio State that's already rooting for this guy. They got to find that. And I think they will, but like you said, it's hard. It's hard, especially at that quarterback position. I mean, Nick, you played it. You know how difficult it can be to play that at a high level.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and especially too, I mean, you mentioned 2 days in reference to some of those guys in the spring league. I mean, I had, leaving NEO and transferring to Albany, I had a summer and a fall camp to learn an offense, and even that for me was like it's tough. Like it's tough, especially it depends on the style of offense you're running, but I mean, whenever you got to as the quarterback on the field, right? I mean, you have to understand not only what the receivers are doing, what the running backs are doing, and what the line's doing, but you've got to understand what the defense is doing and where what are their coverages and where are the holes in their coverages, and how does the play that we have called right now attack those weaknesses, right? And then if we're in a bad spot, okay, well, we got to flip the play, or we got to we've got to call an audible, right? I mean, and the center's doing the same thing on the line, right? We had Juice. Is it Juice Suggs?
Juice Scruggs. Yeah, Juice.
Scruggs. So he was on earlier, Penn State guy, and plays center there. And we were talking about, as the center on the line. I mean, you're the quarterback of the offensive line, right? I mean, you're not just down there snapping the ball. You're watching for defensive fronts. You're watching the linebackers, and you may even have your eyes up on the safeties to see what's going on every once in a while. It's not like football players are just a bunch of meatheads. Maybe they're meatheads in some sense, right? But there's a lot of mental activity going on inside of a play, and it happens that quick,
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're not able to have a solid grasp on the playbook, then you're not going to be able to have a solid understanding of not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it. It's kind of funny because as a quarterback, you run into issues all the time where you're like, why won't this guy just get here? He's got to get in this hole. He's got to get in this pocket. But then, I got to play receiver my last year, and then you get out there as a receiver, and it's a whole different deal. And you're like, okay, I understand that you're like, you want me to run this route, but it's like, it's just sense. It's not, it's a little bit more difficult than you think, right? But also at the same time, I mean, how many times do you have a guy that's supposed to run the shallow to pull down the linebacker, and he doesn't run a shallow because he thinks he's not getting the ball, and he drifts upfield, and then that linebacker gets in the way of the dig, right, coming right behind him. Or the guy's supposed to run dude, I'm so far removed from football, I can't even think of the correct terms. This guy's supposed to run just like a streak route straight up the field from the slot position to drag the safety over to open up the field for the skinny post that's coming in the middle of the field. But then he drifts inside, and now that safety's right in the mix. It's like you have to understand all these tiny little details, right, that you're mentioning, Nico. It's not just understanding, oh, I'm going to run here. It's like, okay, well, why am I running there? What else is happening around me? You have to have that level of awareness for it to really work. And then to even move beyond that, everybody on the team has to understand their portion in their role on the team, whether you're on the field or not, so that the team can succeed, right? I was never the guy on the field. But hey, we come out there on practice day, and I'm going to bust my ass and make a fool of the defensive team whenever I'm playing scout team Q and scout team receiver and scout team tight end. Like I'm gonna try to make these guys a fool by doing the best that I can do, so that those guys are ready for a Saturday, right?
And they can
it's
get
all
better.
about those tiny little pieces and how they all work in together. It's not just me show. Sure, it's the me show for myself. Like I got to make sure that I'm doing everything that I need to do, but it's for the greater good. It's for the team, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had a good example with that with the spring league. I'm on 3-day practice, and I got to start against the best front in that league. They had 2 D tackles, one went to Green Bay, one went to LA, and then the linebacker went to Tennessee, and the other linebacker was a projected first-round pick if some other stuff didn't happen. But he was in the league, he was a draft pick and everything. So, I mean, I was going against one of the best defensive fronts that we could have had, and then we lost our quarterback. So this is inside run all game. So, I mean, we didn't have the communication already set down. Like they yelled. We ran a zone, and they bumped the zone out. So they bumped the zone call. So they're going to the outside linebacker rather than the inside. So I take inside zone footwork. They switch to the outside zone. I have no idea. And and my guy makes a TFL because I'm blocking half of an NFL defensive tackle. And I look around. I'm like, excuse me? Like, no double team? Like, what happened there? And they're yelling at me like we called it out. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know this? Like, I don't know the jargon yet. And they said what these guys are doing is insane on such a short notice. But now, Odie, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
The spotlight's on you now. How are you feeling getting ready for William and Mary?
Oh, I'm ready. This is
How
gonna
ready?
be this is gonna be a fun time. This is gonna be a great time. I think it's having a change and changing anything is sometimes you just need a change, and I think it was a good time to change, not necessarily football wise, but academic wise.
Amazing school, one of the best schools in the
everything
country.
is just get a new perspective on things as well. Will be really cool, but I'm really excited to contribute in however I'm asked, whatever it is, but whatever it is, I'm going to give it my all, and I'm really excited. I have 2 more years of eligibility left, and 2 more years of football left, at least for me, and just really excited. Just having another opportunity, just because of the transfer portal is such a scary and crazy place that finding a home for me was as quick as I possibly could, but also making sure it was the right home was like my main priority when it came to the transfer portal and stuff like that. It was just nice to have it right away, so I could just focus on my last semester of undergrad and know where I was going before all the stuff kind of wrapped up.
What went into that decision to go to William and Mary over other schools? What was the decider? What was the
So
thing
I
that just
had
did
an
it?
offer to Duquesne as well at the time. So pretty much when I entered the portal, I had a bunch of schools kind of talking to me and stuff like that. The quickest to jump on the board. There was a couple Division II, and I wasn't necessarily not open to going Division II, but I knew I was a Division I player at the time, and I got an offer. My first visit was to Duquesne, and really enjoyed there. And they offered me after I visited there and stuff like that. But I was already going to go. Kind of funny story how William Mary worked. So, I'm good friends with one of the mission people at William and Mary, and I just decided to apply. There was a deadline. I was like, well, might as well apply to grad school, see if I can get in. Ended up getting in, and so then it kind of snowballed into William and Mary needing a receiver, and I was pretty much right around the corner, and that's a school that they have a tough time getting people into that school. So having the grades that I did and being able to get into that school was a plus for them. I think I grew on. I wouldn't say I was necessarily their first option, but I think I kind of grew on them as they continued to watch more and more tape. And I probably had my best game versus them this year too. Unfortunately, we somehow lost, but.
I watched that game that reminded me of 2018 against William and Mary, where it was like, how the hell did we lose this game?
Yeah, well, we almost lost. We almost lost that 2018, or no, we did.
No, 2018 we blew like a 17-point lead in the fourth.
Oh my God!
Like I watched. I mean, I went to almost every one of your guys' games. I was, I watched every local game, and then I watched every game on TV. Supporting you guys, and. Yeah, that William and Mary game was crazy.
That was a tough game. Let me tell you, that was a tough game, and I had the fourth quarter was one of my best quarters of the season.
Yeah, you put the Jets on a little bit. You showed everybody what the speed was about.
Maybe a little bit.
A little bit. It doesn't come out often, but when T.O. gets moving, on my man right there.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, it's funny stuff. Yeah, it was kind of like just an interesting kind of like dynamic, and I said, if they offer me pretty much any money, that I was going to commit there, just because playing in the CAA, one of the better conferences in FCS. I know I can capable of playing at the FCS level, but it also on the academic side, it's tough to beat a school like that.
Oh my God, yeah.
When it
Absolutely.
comes to that. And, not saying school is anything. You can put stuff on a resume, but it's all about the content inside. But, the resume does not necessarily.
Connections you'll make,
anything.
man.
And
Especially at a university like
I
that.
said, it's a world pronounced school, and being able to just an opportunity to, be able to play there, but also go to school there, and also get out of the cold weather, which will be awesome. So, having that will be definitely a plus.
Hey, you'll probably look good in that green too, I bet.
Oh my God, I can't wait. I can't wait to see. Wait, are you going to Albany again this year?
No, unfortunately, we don't play them. I really was hoping that we could play.
You got
Albany.
2 years. You're gonna play them the next year when they flop the schedule.
I hope so. That would be really cool. I was really hoping that we'd be able to play them and just be able to, talk a bunch of crap to everyone and then just give them a big.
T.O. talking trash on the field. What's that? A new attribute you unlocked?
No, it would have been the other way around.
Level up.
But it would have been cool to hear what they'd have to say.
Hey man, everybody knows how you are, man. You're one of the most slept on individuals, but when that comes to that field, it's anybody's game. You always showed out. Definitely one of my favorite teammates to watch play, especially to watch grow over that COVID year, that first year you had. You grew into an amazing receiver. I can't wait to see you these next 2 years at William & Mary.
Well, I'm hoping all good things here, and guys, Nico, thanks for coming on the show. We'll have to do a full episode with you somewhere down the line and talk a little bit about whatever it is we want to talk about.
You reach out to me anytime, man. I'm in here. It's all love over here for you.
We'll get one going, and we'll chop it up and have a good time about whatever it is. Thanks, Nico, for coming on. Kind of spending a little time with us. Appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. See you.
All right, we'll see you.
It is pretty fun seeing some of the guys hop on and getting to hang out a little bit. Man, Odie, you and I even had some pretty fun times together. So I think we may have talked about this on the first episode that you and I did together a while back.
Yeah, that was like when we first started.
That was like the beginning.
That was like COVID. That was like 2020.
Yeah, it was. So it was funny. I think we talked about it a little bit then, but we were roommates whenever we go on travel games.
Yeah, that was the best.
Dude, that was too fun. I mean, dude, I remember, dude, we had so much fun when we went to Montana.
Oh my God.
Whenever we went to Montana, dude, we had so many inside jokes coming home from that trip. I mean, what was I'm trying to think. There was one deal that we were what was it? We were sitting there. Remember, I took a video of us and we were like, what were we saying?
I know. I don't even remember what it was, but it was just hilarious.
Man.
It was too funny. And we were sitting in the airport and we were just having everyone was kind of pissed. And I was like, I'm not saying that I knew I was going to lose, but after Juwan made that catch, I was like, all right, we got a chance now. But then the brakes, the car started to break down, and they just beat the brakes off us after that. There's a different level of FCS football that they have playing at their program. I think didn't they win the national championship or something this year or something? They were in the national championship.
Did they really?
This year.
I don't even know.
Yeah, Montana State. I think they were. It was really cool. But we just had the best time. We see, the thing is, everyone was so uptight. And we're not uptight people because you don't play uptight. You play best when you're nice and loose and you're having a good time, but you don't lose focus.
Yeah.
You don't lose focus. You're still focused on the task at hand, but you're just hey, we're out here playing. We might as well do it while we're having a good time out here. So me and Nick would just be cracking jokes and just having a good time. But it was well needed because the team was everyone just so uptight,
everybody
I saw all the rah stuff, and it's man, we just gotta relax. It's just a game.
Yeah, everybody would get tight for sure, man.
Such a good time. The best memories on trips is just with you guys, Griff and Tim, just hanging out, and we just would hang out and just BS whatever it was, and We'd always find a movie on Friday nights and
Oh yeah.
3 or 4
Where-
movies on Friday nights, and we would just talk forever. I mean, I had a bunch of different roommates this year, but like, you know, I had Tadariq Johnson the first year.
Yep.
You know, the first year, and then I had you, or I think I had like a mixture, and then we roomed like one time.
And it was like,
And
yeah,
then
I was like,
all right,
no,
all right. I think it was like, all
we're
right,
roommates.
Coach, so we need a room like the rest of the time here. We just had so much fun. There's so many good memories at Albany, like you just can never like take back. And it kind of sucks that COVID kind of got in the way, because like that was like kind of like another year that you can just like add another memory. I'm not saying that there wasn't any, but it was just kind of like
Definitely
you don't,
different.
you don't
I
think of
gotta
any
imagine,
positive things when it comes to that, you know. And this year, you know, it still was not the same. You know, there's still too much left over. So from COVID and stuff like that. So, you know, I think going back to normal and this year, getting a new scenery, a new coaching staff, you know, and just new people in general, I think it'll be really, really cool. But you know, like I can't think enough of like the experience that I've had at Albany. Like, you know, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like I wouldn't trade the friendships and the people I've like met throughout
Dude,
like, the entire time. That's just
been
the main
like the
thing.
best stuff, man. Absolutely, is the friendships. I mean, you know, at this point, like, I don't think back about, you know, how hard I mean, obviously we do, right? And they're part of who we are, but you know, I don't necessarily think back on college football and think about the workouts and the practice and the lifts and the games and the travel and all that kind of stuff. I think about, you know, hanging out in the locker room and hanging out on away trips in the hotel rooms, hanging out with each other. And dude, like some of our team meals on Friday nights were just
The
freaking
best.
hilarious, you know, because everybody come in, it was like a, you know, dinners from this hour to this hour, right? It was like a 2.5 hour window or whatever it was. And, you know, we'd get our little gang together and we'd all go down and eat and hang out and shoot the shit for a while. And, you know, and then we'd go in for a meeting and we'd review, you know, whatever our game plan was for that week. And everybody get real tight, you know, and then we'd go back and, dude, there was one meeting where we were cracking up laughing. Do you remember that? Do you remember that my last year? We were,
Yeah.
God, where were we? I can't even remember where we were at, but we were cracking up before we went into the meeting, and then
we couldn't stop. We
got into the meeting, and we were cracking up laughing, and Fiaki was right behind us. He was like, "Stop!" And we were sitting there, and we're like,
I don't even know. We just had the most like inside jokes, just good times, good vibes, only
Oh,
good
man.
vibes. Like when we were out there, and like the only thing is like sometimes like even when like you lose or like these other things, people are like the bus has to be silent. I'm like, what can you do, right? What are you gonna do after you lost the game? Well, you can't go back and change the gosh darn plays at this point. Like I'm not saying like I'm gonna go like have a good time, like party or like do these other things, but like it's just I understand like coaches understand like it's your livelihood's on the line, but like at the end of the day, it's just a game. Like, man, like I'm not trying to take like football like too serious, but it's made football for me. Not saying I don't take it serious because I care and I'm gonna work my butt off to be able to get there. But like,
yeah,
in the grand scheme of things, of like what's going on in the world or like other things, like we're just so lucky to be able to like actually play it, especially at the Division I level, play at this level. Like I think sometimes we just forget about how grateful we are and like enjoy. Like I think, and I listened to Aaron Rodgers a little bit. Enjoy the moment. Like every single year, the team is never the same. Like you lose people, you add people every year. The team will never. Coaches will be gone. Team will never be the same. Whether you go 12-0 or 0-12, like those relationships will last entire lifetime. So like, you know, why not? Why you're with those people working your butt off? Why not enjoy it? Whether you're winning or losing. And I'm not saying that like if you're losing, like, you know, you're still like having the most amazing time. Like, of course it sucks. Nobody likes losing, but like, you know, that doesn't take away of like Coach Davis says, don't let anybody steal your joy. Yeah, nobody's stealing my joy if I'm 0-12. I'm still happy. Like, I'm not saying I'm happy about losing, but That's not going to change my personality or how I go about things. Like it's you know, that's just kind of how I approach to it. And it might come off as like I don't care, but you know, that's just who I am. It's just it's a game. Like it's fun. It's supposed to be fun. That's why it was created.
Absolutely, man.
All
Well,
right, Nikki.
Odie,
Well, thank you for coming
yeah.
on the TO show and being a little co-host with me tonight.
It has
We'll
been
probably
a
wrap
fun
things up here
time.
in about 10-ish minutes. But thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you coming on, and you know, we'll have to have you on or come on your show or whatever it is again. But
Definitely.
guys, again, check out all you 2 followers, 2 viewers right now. I don't even know why you guys are watching, but thank you for watching. Make sure you guys check out the Nick and Griff Show.
Come hit us on Twitter at Nick and Griff Show.
They're also on YouTube and Spotify. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, they're there. Check them out. At least when you listen to them, come up with an open mind. They always have different, new, insightful stuff. Not necessarily just about Bitcoin, but about other cool aspects of financial literacy.
Absolutely. Well,
Awesome.
Odie, I
Thank you,
appreciate
Nick.
you
I
having me
appreciate you
on.
coming on,
Yep.
man, and we'll talk to you soon.
We will
brother.
be talking, brother. Peace.
All right, see you. All right, guys. We got about 9 minutes here. We're going to wrap things up. Probably won't go to the end of the draft here. Sorry about a couple of guests. They had some things, other prior engagements that they had to go to. Also, some of them have 6 a.m. run. In the morning, so they're not going to be up late here. So unfortunately, they were not able to get on tonight, but that's okay. We had a fun time hanging out with some awesome guests, some awesome old teammates from UAlbany. Looks like Tyler Lindenbaum from Iowa. This guy, I think, is going to be an all-pro center in the NFL. Got picked by the Ravens. That's a great pick by them, especially a very good run blocker. For them, I'm excited. I'm not a big Ravens fan, but congrats to Tyler on getting picked by them. And again, guys, I just want to give a shout out to all the guests that came on today. Blake came on, video editors, all that good stuff. And we got we had 1 to 2 people viewing for most of this time. Shout out to you guys. You guys are the best for watching. I don't even know why you're watching, but thank you for watching. I'm really excited that this was somewhat successful. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube or whatever, you know, if you watch this back, if you guys like this kind of live stream, make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're thinking about doing a live stream every Friday this summer. And I'm really excited. I'm thinking about it. Isn't it for sure? But if you would like to see that, let us know down in the comments or give us a like if this is something you guys want to continue to see. I think it'd be cool experience to kind of get a live show, have live guests on, and continue to you know, just talk about real life events and kind of give different people's perspective on different things. As we continue to do, we'd still be talking to different student athletes, but give you guys an opportunity to one more thing to watch during the week, not necessarily just the podcast that are recorded and edited and stuff like that, which they are, you know, but something live where you guys can tune in, watch, keep up on your news, but also learn about some cool things that are going on within student athletes and kind of have maybe a little bit of agenda in the show. Looks like the Jets are trading back in to the first round here. I have no idea who they're going to take. They've taken their corner. They've taken their receiver. Are they going back to defense here? Or are they going in the trenches? I'm just curious to see. Looks like they traded with Tennessee. So Tennessee believes does not like they're getting picks for the second, third, and for the second and the third day. Looks like they just made their call and their pick in the Jets war room down here. This is really cool to see that. when it comes to that. I'm curious to see who they're going to take. Jets are not very good. I think they got a quarterback that's good. But I don't know. I wonder how these parties are going to be after the draft today. After the draft tonight and in Vegas, how crazy. I mean, there's got to be a lot of people there. I'm curious to see how many people, what are these parties like? What are the casinos going to be like tonight in Vegas? It'll be really cool to see that. It seems like that they're having a good time there at the draft, having a good time as the sun continues to set there. I'm kind of jealous because it is almost 11 o'clock East Coast time. Oh, we're up to four people watching. Let's go. Thank you guys for watching. The Nick and Griff. Thanks again, Nick, for coming on the show. 4 people watching. This is super cool. But again, quick shout out to everyone who's continued to help us out and continue to grow the channel as we gone through here. It's just really cool to see how you guys have eaten up this stuff and really enjoyed it. I really enjoy creating content for you guys, not just for my sake, but for your guys' sake. I think we continue to provide some insightful content, but also give our other student athletes a platform to be able to talk about, whatever they feel like they want to talk about. If you guys, just in case you guys missed any of this draft coverage today, you guys can rewatch the entire thing, but we will also be posting the interviews on YouTube in the next coming weeks, which will be really cool for you guys to see, just in case you guys missed it. Of course, we had Juice on, and then we had various guests on throughout there, which will be really cool to see that and break this up. And we had some really cool conversations, and we talked about, especially with Juice today, when talking about Penn State, what it's like there. That place is there's some dogs at Penn State that they continue to produce here. All right, well, I think this will be our last pick here before we wrap things up. Pick 26. We're probably not going to make it through the entire 32, but thank you guys for tuning in. Looks like the Jets are selecting Jermaine Johnson. They must have had a pretty high okay grade on him coming back in the first round. Hopefully he had some draft insurance. He was supposed to be a top 10 draft, dropped all the way down to 26. Seems like there's always that one to two other people that for whatever reason drop. I don't know why it is. He either must have watched some more tape, or some people had some hype, or not fitting the right needs, or whatever the case may be. But I think that'll be a good pick for the Jets. They need some pass rushers. I think their fans and their GM feel good about that as they continue to improve that team as they are coming from the ground up here. But we are going to wrap things up here. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in to the T.O. Show Draft Special. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching. Like I said, if you guys like the content, please give a thumbs up. Thank you, Sheridan. Thumbs up, and for more. I cannot speak right now. I've been talking for almost 3 hours straight. For more content like this and for more live streams as we go out, stay tuned and let me know what you think. All right, guys. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Good night. Peace.